season. The team chasing them has a chance to gain ground tonight. Only 4 games remaining between Pittsburgh and the Montreal Expos. These teams share some common threads. 2 stars can carry their teams with a flick of a bat. Vaughn's 3rd in homers. Mikey Grissom 5th in the league in hits. 2 Gold Glove caliber outfielders. Van Slyke 4 Gold Gloves in a row. Walker 12 outfield assists this season. 2 managers who received significant votes for Manager of the Year this season. But these 2 teams define success in different terms. Montreal has surpassed all expectations. They finished 26 games out last year. The Pittsburgh Pirates back-to-back division titles. They want a pennant and ultimately a World Series ring to feel complete. The fate of these 2 teams continues to unfold tonight. Point State Park in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where the 3 rivers come together. And just across, as we pull back inside the stadium, where the Montreal Expos are here to take on the Pirates in the first of a 2 but very important game set. Hello, everybody. Gary Thorne, welcome. ESPN's Wednesday Night Baseball. This is the time of the season when the cream rises to the top. There have been names before in Pittsburgh: the Stargels, the Clementes, the Friends, the Faces. From Montreal, the Warren Cromattis, the Rusty Staubs, the Steve Rogers, the Tim Raines, and Dave Campbell. Tonight, we're going to see some more names who will be added to that category of money players.
Absolutely. For the Pittsburgh Pirates, guys you would expect like Barry Bonds and Andy Van Slyke, but Jay Bell has stepped up, 20-game hitting streak. Doug Drabeck. For Montreal, guys like Dennis Martinez and Ken Hill, who's really been a big difference in that club. Marquis Grissom has really picked up the slack with Delino DeShields out. But the key guy for the Expos has been Larry Walker, the best kept secret in baseball, I think. He's got to be the best Canadian everyday player ever. I mean, you got Ferguson Jenkins as a pitcher, but as far as the everyday players, Larry Walker. Look at these numbers as far as the Triple Crown goes. He's 6 in every category, and he really has carried this club on his shoulders the last couple of months.
You know, even though this is a 2-game set, these teams haven't played each other since the end of June. It is mighty important.
It really is. Felipe Alou has said we need to sweep. Key game tonight. Chris Nabholz, who is 10-1 in September over the last 3 years, goes. But tomorrow night they have their ace Dennis Martinez. So this is really a big game for the Expos tonight.
All right, take a look at the pitchers we're going to see tonight. Bob Wap will be making the start. He's been in the pen and in the rotation for the Pirates. And Chris Nabholz will be on the mound for the Montreal Expos. And we will see Mr. Bonds tonight. A chance to enter that 30-30 category again. He already has 34 stolen bases and now has 29 home runs. It's all coming up. Tom Meade, back to you. Dave Campbell, these 2 teams are 7-7 in their season series. Here, 3-4. Montreal has had the advantage. Let's take a look at our Energizer starting lineup for the Montreal Expos. Marquis Grissom leading it off. He'll be in center field. Brett Barbary, the switch hitter, at second base. Von Calderon back off the DL, making the start in left field. He'll bat third. Here's the man we'll talk a lot about, Larry Walker, batting cleanup. At first base, Greg Colburn. He's getting the job done there for him. Third base, Tim Wallach, right-handed batter. Doing the catching, Darren Fletcher, left-handed hitter. Followed by the shortstop having a career year, Spike Owen. He'll bat 8th. And on the mound, batting 9th, left-hander Chris Nabholz.
35-year-old veteran pitcher Bob Walk in his 10th Major League season, making his 17th start of the year. He's been on and off the disabled list with hamstring and groin problems, but he has pitched very well of late. He's won 6 straight decisions at home, 6 out of his last 7, and he holds right-handed batters to a .203 average. And the Montreal Expos have had trouble with right-handed pitchers this year. Only Larry Walker has hit above .272 against them. Checking the defense, which is rated number 2 in the National League behind the St. Louis Cardinals. Jeff King is at third. Jay Bell at short. Jose leaned at second, and Gary Ritas at first. The great Barry Bonds in left. Andy Van Slyke, as Gary told you, 4 consecutive Gold Gloves in center. And Lloyd McClendon in right. Don Slaught gets the nod behind the plate to the left-hander Nabholz pitching, and Bob Walk. Now the hill as we look at Felipe Alou, and boy, what a debut he's had. First Dominican Republic manager ever, and he certainly has paved the way for a few more.
63-44 they are under Felipe Alou, and they are very much in the running. Pennant fever is here. Walk's first pitch. We are underway in this Wednesday night. Marquis Grissom takes it for a strike. Grissom, Barbary, and Calderon coming up for the Montreal Expos. They and Pittsburgh both coming off wins. Montreal shut out Philadelphia last night. Base hit picked up by Grissom. And the leadoff batter is on, Marquise Grissom.
Bob Walk started him off with a curveball, then went to a sidearm slider, and Marquise Grissom almost tore Walk's head off. Bob got the glove up, but not till it got past him. So the Major League's leading base stealer the last 2 years aboard. There's that sidearm slider, and Walk did not get the glove up in time.
Well, Grissom doing what he does best. He gets on. 165 hits for him on the season. He is 5th in hits in the league. Now the switch hitter, Brett Barbary, working at second base. Barbary batting .270 left, 167 right-handed, has 1 home run on the season. Barbary has picked up a couple of sacrifices. Let's see what he does here. Walk's going to check.
Figures Grissom will go because Felipe Alou's entire posture as the manager of the Montreal Expos is take it to the other team, and I think he wants to sound the tone early tonight. Grissom 70 steals. He has the National League lead by 25 over teammate Delino DeShields.
And he's got himself a good lead. 1 foot out on the carpet over there. Walk. You see he's extended it enough, so he's got to dive back in with Gary Reedus holding the bag on him. So Barbary's job here to get him moved around, whether he lays it down or tries to put the ball through that big hole. If he can pull it, he's got a big hole between first and second. Pittsburgh does not claim to pull the baseball, however. King's even with a bag at third. Grissom goes. Throw down by Don Slott. No. 71. Stolen bases on the season for Marquise Grissom. Slott tried to get rid of it before he had it.
Now, Bob Walk does not have a real quick delivery to the plate, so the Expos are going to go when they can. Marquise Grissom getting a good jump at first base. You see Walk. I call that an average jump, but Marquise just has the great speed. And Slott had a great pitch to handle, just lost it in the transfer.
Montreal second in the league in stolen bases. St. Louis has gone ahead of them. Grissom a threat to steal third. Barbary now will really try and pull it in order to move that base runner up to third base.
Well, just like Robbie Alomar, the Toronto Blue Jays last year, Marquise Grissom is 21 for 22 stealing third. With right-handed batting Ivan Calderon coming up next and nobody out, I would suspect that Calderon would wait till at least 1 out if Barbary can't advance him, but we'll keep an eye on him anyway.
Barbary last season had 136 at-bats coming up in his rookie year. Finished really strong at the plate this season. That 242 overall, getting 96 games under his belt, including this one. They move in at short, covering second. Grissom not going. Pitches outside. Bell is all the way over on the bag on Marquise Grissom as they're trying to hold him as close as they can.
One key to look for with Jay Bell is if he gets into a pickoff position and Walk can give him a good throw, Jay Bell blocks off second base as good as any shortstop in baseball. If he has the ball before the runner's there, he'll just put his knee down and block him off the base.
Barbary now at a 1-2 count, and will take the timeout as he steps out.
Cat and mouse game here. Walk is an off-speed pitcher, but he doesn't really want to give Barbary anything to pull to the right side of the diamond. So let's see how he works him with a 1-2 count.
Good crowd on hand tonight at Three Rivers. Barbary fouls that one off.
That is a professional pitch. 1 ball, 2 strikes, and a low sinking fastball. No way that Barbary could pull that pitch, and that's what Walk wants to try to do. He wants Barbary to have to hit the ball the other way.
Bob Walk coming into this one is 0-1 this season against the Expos. 5-9 lifetime against them. He's had a very good season. 3-1-1 in his last 5 starts. Barbary trying to get him to go after it. Walk wants to keep that ball, if it's hit, on the ground and to the left field side in order to have that runner not advance. So he's trying to get Barbary to chase one he can't pull.
Yeah, the thought process now that he's gone away, and away. He may try to bust him with a fastball in. I don't think you'd see him throw some kind of a slop curve, though. We'll see, though. It's always a guessing game.
Grissom on at second base. Nobody out. Bell continues to move in behind him, the shortstop. Walk takes a little too long. A lot of signs being laid down here by Don Slott with that runner at second base. 2-2 count on Barbary. And again, just reaching out to foul it off.
Well, a professional pitcher going against a young hitter who is learning on the job, Brett Barbary. He's just hacking away trying to get a piece of it. He's just hoping Walk will make a mistake inside or give him something off speed he can pull to the right side of the diamond.
Barbary reactivated on September 5. Reason he hasn't gotten over the 100-game mark because he's not been available since the All-Star break, hitting .287. And he makes Walk work. Walk wanted that call and didn't get it. And the count is 3-2.
Little cat and mouse game going on. You saw Don Slotz shaking his head ahead of time as we look at Steve Ripley. This pitch is not a strike. It's a good call by Ripley. It's outside the strike zone.
You know, the pennant fever's on. He's already taking it. Ripley is from the Pirate dugout. Grissom at second, not going. Center field, Andy Van Slyke. Grissom's got to stay. He was playing in center. Perfectly positioned on Barbary, who is not a power hitter. One down.
Well, Barbary did the best he could with a tough pitch, but Bob Walk just did a professional job of pitching to Brett Barbary in that at-bat. And I use that word quite a bit, professional, but Bob Walk is a professional pitcher. He has a real good idea of just about every delivery he has where it's going to go.
That'll bring up one of the power hitters in this lineup with a runner at second base and one out, Ivan Calderon. Calderon coming off the DL and has really been spanking the ball around. Since coming off the DL on September 3, he's batting .324. 3 RBIs, 5 walks, 2 doubles, and a triple in that time. He had surgery on a damaged left shoulder. It is not 100% yet. But he says, I'm about 80-85 at the plate, though. I'm hitting the ball well. Grissom at second. There he goes to third. Taken, bounced off Slot. Stolen base number 72. And he's at third base.
We mentioned he would probably not go with a left-handed hitter up to see if Barbary could get him over. But once he got the right-handed batter up, it's a tougher throw for the catcher. And Marquise Grissom steals third base for the 22nd time this year. He's got a modest lead, and he had a modest break. But he just got it as Slot for the second time. Couldn't come up with the pitch.
Now Calderon with the RBI chance, and he's making Slot work. He's obviously taking here until Walk throws a strike by the looks of it, because he had the bat on his shoulders for the first 2 pitches.
One of the things the Expos do in this situation a lot is they call the contact play. They have the runner break off third as soon as contact is made, and they steal runs sometimes.
2-0 the count, 1 out. Calderon, and he went on that one, 2-1.
You can get burned if you hit a line drive at the infield, but if it's on the ground or in the air, you have a pretty good chance of scoring a run. Obviously, if it's in the air, the runner goes back and tags up. But that runner at third base, Marquise Grissom, is thinking, I am breaking on contact, and any kind of a roller, he's probably going to make it.
Outside, Walk trying to stay away from the power here, and the count goes to 3-1. Ivan Calderon was telling me before the game that while the shoulder's not 100% and while his right elbow is hurting, he's had a hard time getting around on fastballs. He's trying to take the ball the other way until he gets 100% walk. He's kind of pitching him the way he'd like to be pitched if he wants to go the other way. 3-1 to him, and he walked him. Well, he really didn't give him much to look at all, and now runners at first and second with 1 away. Does set up the double play chance.
Well, Jimmy Leland knows that Bob Walk's in a lot of trouble early. He's got to face the Expos' hottest hitter in Larry Walker. Walk's job here is probably going to try to sink the fastball down and away to get the double play ball. And remember, Larry Walker is the most aggressive first ball hitter in the major leagues. He swings at the first pitch 52% of the time. Walk will try to keep the first pitch, I would think, down and away and see if Walker will fish for it.
A real star. .312 batting average, 6th best, 6th in homers with 22, 6th in RBIs with 84, and 5th in slugging percentage at .527. Larry Walker. 2 on, 1 out. He goes after it, and a towering shallow fly ball to center. Andy Van Slyke being called off on the ball. Grissom tags. Shortstop Bell, the throw. Slot not in time. And down to second base goes Calderon. A 1-0 lead for the Expos. That's why outfielders should handle balls whenever they can.
I have no idea why Andy Van Slyke didn't take charge of that ball. He was there. All the momentum's coming. He has the great arm. No chance for Grissom to score if Van Slyke catches it, but with Jay Bell grabbing it, backpedaling, Gary Manuel, the third base coach, took it to him. We said the Expos are going to be aggressive. You see, Bell had to take a step backwards, and that's how much he missed the play by. You can see Marquise Grissom, and you can see what 1 or 2 steps might have made on the throw from Jay Bell. Slot trying to block off the plate, but that extra bounce and a good call by Steve Ripley. So the aggressive base running of the Expos gets them a run. A hit, 2 stolen bases, and a pop fly to shortstop.
Walker now has 85 RBIs. Sacrifice fly to short is how it will be scored. Marquise Grissom comes across with it. Now Calderon's gone to second. That one's towards the corner by Colburn. He's got an RBI. Calderon will score. The throw comes into third, and the Expos lead 2-0. Greg Colburn delivers the shot into the left field corner. And a 2-0 lead as Calderon crosses the plate.
Well, Colburn's a youngster they brought up from Indianapolis. They've had all kinds of problems at first base trying to replace Andres Galarraga, who had a bad year last year. But quite frankly, until Colburn came along, they had gotten virtually no productivity out of first base at all. But he's been a solid hitter in that number 5 spot for him since he's come back from Indianapolis.
Greg Colburn has 7 doubles. That one's fouled off, and 15 runs batted in now as Tim Wallach fouls it off, and the Montreal Expos are treating very rudely Bob Locke here in this start. A 2-0 lead on 2 hits, a double and a single, the walk, the 2 stolen bases, and a sacrifice fly. And Wallach is behind on the count, 0-2.
Expos have 179 stolen bases. That's second to the Cardinals. But the amazing stat is they've given up 181 stolen bases. Their pitchers don't hold runners too well, and their catchers haven't thrown well.
Wallach reaching towards the hole. Bell. He gets it over to Ritas, and that will do it. But a big inning. In this big 2-game set, Montreal starts it out on the road the way they wanted. They pick up a couple of runs on 2 hits with a base runner left on. Montreal Expos coming into this game 5th in the league in runs. What they've got to do, though, is stop the best run-producing team in baseball, and that's the Pittsburgh Pirates. Their starting lineup tonight for Jimmy Leyland, brought to you by Energizer. Gary Ritas leads it off. Jay Bell will be at short, batting second. Andy Van Slyke in center field, hitting third. There's Barry Bonds, the cleanup batter in left field. Jeff King at third base will be batting in the 5th spot. Against left-handers, it's Lloyd McClendon in right field. Don Slott will be doing the catching. He'll bat 7th. Jose Lean at second base will be batting 8th. And Bob Locke, the pitcher, bats 9th.
25-year-old left-hander Chris Nabholz out of Pottsville, Pennsylvania. Number 2 draft choice of the Expos back in 1988. Fastball, curveball, changeup, ground balls are his forte. If he's getting the ground balls, he'll have a good evening. Defensively playing behind Nabholz tonight. Tim Wallach moves over to third base. Spike Owen at short, Brett Barbary at second, and Colburn in first. Ivan Calderon in left, Marquise Grissom in center. Larry Walker, best arm in the National League in right. Darren Fletcher's the catcher for Chris Nabholz.
Chris Nabholz has been real problems this season for the Pirates. He is 2-0 against them and has not given up a run in 10 1/3 innings that he has worked, walking 8 and striking out 12 Pirates. And the left-hander delivers outside to Gary Ritas, the leadoff batter. Ritas in that leadoff spot, playing at first base, which has been a problem spot for the Pirates. Combined first baseman batting only .219, the lowest in the league at first this year. He's going to add to it. There's an artificial turf hit. Ivan Calderon over to get it, and there's one of the slowest hit, most hot doubles you'll ever see.
Things the Pirates have probably done better than any team in baseball is once the other team goes out and grabs a couple of runs, and before they can even get comfortable, the Bucks come right back at them. They've done that time and again this year. Ritas gets a break. He hammers one down off the plate, and it bounces all the way into left field. So a lead double. Let's see what Jay Bell has in mind here.
Gary Ritas has 8 extra base hits all year. That is his 3rd double. He's got 3 triples and 2 home runs. So there's a big plus for the Pirates. Bell takes it outside for a ball. Jay Bell, of course, one of the best bunters in baseball. 18 sacrifices this season. He won't be at the top of the pile as he has been for the past couple of seasons. Brett Butler's going to beat him in that department this year, but still, he is one of the best at getting him moved up. Showing no bunt there, and the breaking ball's in by Nabholz.
Now, Bell, the 2 previous years, 1990 and 91, had a total of 69 sacrifice bunts. But all of a sudden, with Bobby Bonilla not there to hit in that 4-hole, Only Van Slyke and Bonds behind. Jay Bell has become more of an offensive threat, and Leland has stopped running him quite so much.
There he goes the other way. He's got a base hit. Larry Walker. Reedus will hold. And runners are on at first and third as Jay Bell pumps that one to right field.
Well, Jay Bell, a 21-game hit streak, the longest in the National League, and he gets an ovation from the Pirate fans. So not only did he do his job hitting the ball the other way, they got a base hit to boot.
He's got a chance at having the longest hit streak in the majors this season if he can keep this one going. Now the corner's covered. A 2-0 lead for Montreal, but the Bucks are back in a hurry. And here's Andy Van Slyke. Nabholz gets the strike to him. Andy Van Slyke has put up a lot of impressive numbers, none more than the fact he's hitting .317 against left-handers. 99 points over what he might have expected of himself and what everybody else would have based on his career. And that one caught a piece of Steve Ripley, the home plate umpire. 0-2 on Van Slyke. Came right up, bounced off the dirt, and caught him on the inside of the leg.
Talked about the fact in the opener about how the Pirates have lost Bobby Bonilla and John Smiley this year, but the Pirates are only 2 games worse in the win-loss column than they were after 144 games a year ago. One of the reasons for the improvement, Andy Van Slyke, 359 men in scoring position, number 2 in the league in batting, leads the league in doubles. He has really picked up the slack when Bonilla left.
0-2 the count here. Reedus at third. Bell's on at first. Goldrun takes the throw at first base. Reedus faked the go towards the plate. Here's Nabholz. Opposition hitting .241 off him, and left-handers are hitting .275. So they have done really well against this left-hander. Andy Van Slyke refuses to reach. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Cincinnati trying to stay in it against the Atlanta Braves. They're just barely hanging on. You can hear the scratching of the fingernails coming down the board. Pennant race for Felipe Alou, and yes, they are mighty excited about this 2-game set. 1-2 delivery. Van Slyke goes the other way. He's got a base hit. Reedus will score. Calderon will get it into third. 2-1 Montreal.
RBIs for Andy Van Slyke. He is having a year, and that's the one thing he's really learned this year against left-handed pitching, is that there's a whole outfield to work with. Van Slyke used to get very pull-happy against left-handers, hit a lot of 4-3 groundouts, but now he's utilizing the whole field.
Nabholz in a real jam here. First and second now, and here's Bonds. Strike 1. Andy Van Slyke now batting over .360 with runners in scoring position this year. There is one of the people who will receive some MVP votes when this season is done. And here's another one. Bonds against the lefties at .301 with 10 home runs off left-handers. Nabholz trying to stay away from his power. 1 ball, 1 strike. Even 300 mark for Bonds, just out of the top 10 there, but in the top 10 and just about everything else. 3rd in homers, 5th in RBIs, 9th in stolen bases. Broken back, base hit, center field. Making the turn, Jay Bell. Grissom makes the throw to the plate. Fletcher, the tag, collision, and he's got it. He is out. Jay Bell rocketing in from third base, but Fletcher had the ball and was waiting and got the shoulder into Bell on the throw from Marquise Grissom.
Well, Jay Bell did not read this ball well off the bat. He hesitated, and even though Rich Donnelly, the third base coach, usually waves people home, you can see Bell got a very late break there. Donnelly all of a sudden trying to hold him up. He's got his hand up, but too late. Bell's got no recourse except to try to dislodge the baseball. And I don't know who took the worst of it, but Jay Bell was very slow in getting up. Fletcher bounced right up. Jay Bell knows here he's a gone goose, and he just tries to find a way to dislodge the ball. Fletcher hangs tough. Bell ripped the shoulder into him, but Jay got up rather slowly.
I don't think he ever did touch home plate, did he?
No.
Fletcher had time to turn around and square himself up, and whenever a catcher can do that, the runner knows he's in for a pretty good jolt. 2 on the putout. Van Slyke at second base. Bonds with a single is on at first. The RBI chance now for Jeff King. Nabholz outside for a ball.
Really a key case there where you could second guess a third base coach if he was sending Jay Bell, but it appeared to me Donnelly was trying to hold him up, but Jay ran right through the stop sign. Bell would have scored easily if he would have gotten a good read. That's why it's so important to know where those outfielders are playing. Grissom never came close to that ball, but Jay didn't have a good read on it off second base.
That's the shallow right field. Walker coming in. Runners are playing at halfway. King is retired, and there are 2 down. Remember that play at the plate as this game moves along here, especially right now. If Nabholz can get out of this inning without giving up another run, that could loom as a very big play.
Yeah, we've mentioned it often when we talk about the Pirates and their base running, but Jim Leyland, who coached third base for 16 years in the minor leagues and for the Chicago White Sox, has a sign above his desk that says you can't add to the score if you stop at third. So his whole philosophy is, when in doubt, go for it. But in that case, with nobody out, I think maybe Bell made a mistake.
2 down. Runners at first and second. 2-1 Montreal lead. And Lloyd McClendon takes the strike. McClendon in and right field. Working with left-handers on the mound. He's batting .257 against the lefties this season. It's a big RBI opportunity for him right here. He's .275 with runners in scoring position. 25 points better than his overall average. Nabholz outside. Remember, we said Nabholz had not given up an earned run in 10 1/3 innings against the Pirates. That ended right here with the third batter. Andy Van Slyke getting the RBI off him. He's at second base. 1 ball, 1 strike. Chopped toward short. Spike on the running throw, and Nabholz does indeed get out of the inning with a lot of help from his center fielder, Marquise Grissom. A run scores. There were 4 hits. There are 2 left on after 1 in Pittsburgh. The Expos up by 1. Tonight in Toronto, bring you the Texas Rangers on the Blue Jays. First of our doubleheader. The Baltimore Orioles, Milwaukee Brewers, and Blue Jays stay in that race.
Got to see that ball Jose hit in Detroit last night.
Wow. He loves it there, doesn't he?
Roofer.
That's his kind of ballpark. Darren Fletcher, the catcher, leading it off. Bottom third of the order up against Walk here in the second inning. Owen and Nabholz will follow. Fletcher 3 for 7 lifetime against Walk. See if Bob Walk can settle in here after the 2 runs given up on 2 hits in that first inning. 91 and 66 in his career. 0-2 delivery. Breaking ball misses inside. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Well, Bob Walk is a professional pitcher. He's also been the beneficiary of some pretty good offensive support. If you go throughout the major leagues in the last 5 years, Bob Walk has had the 2nd best run support to Dwight Gooden of any pitcher. So it helps when you get some runs by your teammates, and he seems to pitch the right days.
He's one of those pitchers, and if you're the other way around, it never seems to turn around. If you're one of those who doesn't get support, it goes on like that year after year after year.
I don't think Jim Abbott wants to hear that.
No, I know. He's one of them right now.
Gaylord Perry was a lot like that in many years when he pitched for the Giants.
Fouled off by Fletcher. Count stays 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Who says that football is the only contact sport around? No pads for these guys. I mean, whatever padding Fletcher has didn't help him there. I mean, that's shoulder to shoulder with no leather.
2-2 delivery, and Watt This is down low and goes full. Those collisions are ferocious when the catcher has the ball at the plate. I like the guys who pull out and give it the old lady. 3-2. Fouled off third base side. Chased by King. No play.
Well, there's arguments for and against. You just can't measure the number of games that Mike Scioscia saved over his career with the Dodgers by being the best plate blocker I've ever seen. But it also appears to have taken a lot of toll on Mike's body. And you just wonder, his discretion the better part of Eller. At one time, Gary Carter was amongst the best, but I don't know if the kid stays in there so much anymore.
Deep to right field at the wall. Goodbye, home run, Darren Fletcher. On a 3-2 pitch off Bob Walk. That is only his second home run of the year. 3-1, Montreal.
Guess the collision didn't bother him.
No, I don't think that could have hung him up a little bit. Bob Walk has now given up 9 home runs this season. 6 to the left-handers and 3 to right-handers. And that one misses down low to Spike Owen. Fletcher just tagged that one. I mean, that was a line drive. Wasn't much question it had the length. The only issue was whether or not it was going to be high enough. He has 21 RBIs, 2 home runs. Strike taken, 1 ball, 1 strike on Owen.
Well, Felipe Alou alternating his catchers. No rhyme or reason, especially whether he plays Gary Carter or Darren Fletcher. But tonight it appears he's pushed the right button as far as the defense and the offense.
More relaxed than when the game started. Lots of people on the benches for both teams. There's Fletcher getting the gear on again. Breaking ball, and he either went around or caught the corner. Either way, Owen's got a strike on him. 2-2. This man is having a season that you just cannot believe. I mean, a career year. 276, 7 home runs, 40 RBIs for him. 309 against left-handers this year. He's been one of their best clutch hitters this season and has always been a very strong defensive player. He has just had a great year for a ball club that needed to have that kind of year from a number of players if they were going to contend as they are. 3-2. Montreal Expos on the road this season have won more games than they have at home. They're 41-29. They have the second best road winning percentage in the league. 3-2 delivery by a walk. Tapped to short. Bell. That'll take care of Owen. 1 down. We'll check in. Tommy's.
All right, Gary, let us go to Cincinnati, where the Reds are fighting and scratching to stay alive. But Damon Berryhill doesn't hear the scratching on the board. He singles to center. Here comes Lonnie Smith. And the Braves have tied up Cincinnati. The Braves have yet to win at Riverfront this season. Their magic number to win it all in the division is 10, Gary.
And there, Tom, is that number and the current standings. And we'll keep you posted on the pennant games tonight. That one drilled in the air, center field. Nabholz ripped that one. Van Slyke was playing in and had a pretty good run as Chris Nabholz, the opposing pitcher, went after Bob Walk's first pitch and tagged it. 2 down.
Walks just had a few too many pitches in the middle of the plate. The fastball to Coburn that he got the double on, the pitch to Fletcher, and he got away with one because Nabholz hit it straight away center field. Just trying to get ahead in the count, but Coburn hit a first pitch, Fletcher hit a 3-2, and then Nabholz hit a first pitch.
And we're back to the top of the order, and the man who started all the trouble for Walk in the first inning is singled and 2 stolen bases and scored. Marquise Grissom. Grissom is in the leadoff spot now with Delino DeShields still out. DeShields has now missed 9 consecutive games, and still this team's putting wins together. That's a big offensive player to be out of there. He's a day-to-day right now, and DeShields probably won't be back in the lineup till they return home this weekend.
Somebody asked Jim Little if he felt sorry for the Expos. He said, did they feel sorry for us when Barry Bonds was out 3 weeks? And he says, no, I don't feel sorry for him.
That one to second base. Jose Anderson retired, but Darren Fletcher led this inning off against Bob Walk with a home run. A line drive tag. 9 given up by Walk this season, increasing the lead of Montreal to 3-1. Bob Walk, Chris Nabholz now back out on the mound facing Slot, Jose Lind, and Walk will be batting bottom third of the order for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Slot has had a great season for Pittsburgh. He gets a lot of work against everybody with that batting average he's posted this year. Look at those numbers for him. He and Mike LaValliere sharing the catching duties. Slot is hitting .322 off the left-handers with a couple of home runs off southpaws. Nabholz, giving him nothing in the first 3, is behind 3-0. Chris Nabholz coming into this game 69 walks in 173 innings and 115 strikeouts. You see career-wise what he has done with 2 of those wins coming this year without a loss against the Pirates. Outside corner.
Both these pitchers figure not to go 9. They try to keep Nabholz around 100 pitches a game. They think he loses effectiveness after that. And Bob Walk is kind of the same category. He's a 6-7 inning type pitcher.
Slot with a 3-1, and now 3-2 as he got the outside corner. Nabholz does not have a complete game in the 28 starts that he's had this year. 24 starts for the Montreal Expos last season, 23 and 18 in his career. 3-2 pitch down the right field line, curving towards the bullpen. Walker may have room in foul territory, able to pull it in. That'll retire Slot, and there's one away. CFA prime time here on ESPN. 7:45 tomorrow, 7:45 Eastern, 4:45 Pacific. Pittsburgh takes on Rutgers. In 9 meetings, Rutgers has never beaten the Pittsburgh team. See if they can do it tomorrow. Football right here on ESPN.
7:15 in Newfoundland. Right.
The half hour, you got it. You picked that up. No, it took 3 weeks. That's the fastest of anyone I know. That one popped up outside of first. A lot of room. That'll be put away. 1 pitch, and Lind is retired as Colburn went over to get it. They're quickly 2 down.
Well, you told me, but I read Ken Follett's novel Night Over Water, and he discussed that rather thoroughly too. So it finally sunk in. I got it now.
Bob Walk coming up. What'll they do if Quebec secedes and the Maritime becomes part of the United States? Bob Walk swung and a miss. Strike 1 from Nabholz. 2 down, bases empty. A 3-1 Expos lead.
I'll let Oberman and Patrick figure that out.
Here's the 0-1 pitch. Spike Owen figures he's got a lot of time. That may be the slowest delivery to first base you'll ever see. 1-2-3 inning for Nabholz. Expos here at Three Rivers.
Rennie Stennett, he had a 20-game hitting streak that year. Jay Bell has a 21, and you have to go back to that same year to find a Pirate with a longer streak. Dave Parker twice had 22-game hitting streaks.
I was checking here the major league lead this season. Lance Johnson of the White Sox had that 25-game hit streak, and Shane Mack of Minnesota had a 22-game hit streak. Those are the longest in the majors. And now Jay Bell at 21 with a single he had in tonight's game.
I gave Shane Mack 22 and a half because he appeared to beat out an infield hit, and they waved him out.
They always end like that, don't they? Montreal Expos up. They play 2 games here, and then there'll be 2 more between these 2 teams in Montreal next Wednesday and Thursday. That one in the air to center field, not particularly deep. Van Slyke is there, and Barbary is retired. And there's one away here in the 3rd inning. All right, Friday night doubleheader on ESPN. Mr. Canseco and those Rangers take on Toronto. Carter and company, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. Toronto still wondering. Then you'll see Oakland and Seattle. Ruben Sierra and the Oakland A's against the league's leading hitter Edgar Martinez in Seattle. Ivan Calderon, broken bat ground ball, played by Walk, and there are 2 away in the 3rd. And to Tony La Russa and the Oakland A's, I tip my hat They have swept Minnesota with a 4-2 win. They are doing the impossible.
They really are. Tony's got to get this landslide votes for manager of the year. I mean, he's done it with a lineup that virtually has never been intact the entire year. And hats off to the players as well. They have performed magnificently, and I didn't think they'd do it, and they will.
Really unbelievable. Oakland's victory today, 9 wins in a row. They now lead Minnesota by 9 games. Jose Lee. That retires Walker. It only took 5 pitches by Bob Watt. He retires the number 2, 3, and 4 batters in order. Behind the plate, Ed Rapuano at first. Joe West at second base. Terry Tata at third. Our umpire and crew here in Pittsburgh tonight. Gary Thorne, Dave Campbell. Delighted to have you with us wherever you may be here on this Wednesday. This one's all about the pennant race. Pittsburgh 4 games up with the Montreal Expos. In this first of the 2-game set, the Expos have the 3-1 lead, trying to whittle into it. Gary Reedus led the ball game off with a double and scored. Reedus, Bell, and Van Slyke. 224 on the season now for Reedus, who can lay one down once in a while to get a base hit. Not that time, though, and the count's 0-2 on him. Reedus 4 for 18 lifetime against Namholz, including 1 home run off this left-hander. Breaking ball, tap foul. 1.
Namholz done a much better job, as has Walk, getting the ball down as the game has progressed. And again, the key for both of them will be ground ball out.
He's hit 5 batters this season. He comes inside a lot. Wallach and Walker have paid for it. They've been hit by opposing pitchers. Part of the reason may be because he's hit some.
Well, the Expos are leading the National League in that department by a wide margin. Hit batters by their pitchers.
That one is popped up again to shallow center field. Marquise Grissom. There's one away here in the Pirate half of the 3rd inning. Reedus retired. This is the first full season that he has had at the major league level. He's from the organization, came up in 1990, went 6-2 in 11 games, and then in 91, 8-7 in 24 starts with 1 complete game last year. And this year, getting in the full season, he had some physical problems last year that limited his role in the rotation, but he did get 24 starts last year. Jay Bell, 21-game hit streak. Check swing into the seats. We'll keep you updated on the games that affect the pennant races. You see the Cleveland Indians have jumped out on Toronto. Toronto leading Baltimore by 4 and Milwaukee by 5 in the East. 0-2 delivery.
Well, Bell doesn't appear to be any worse for wear after that collision with Darren Fletcher. Both of them seem to be okay. I'm sure it'll hurt a little bit when they wake up tomorrow morning now.
Well, those are the ones that take some night to settle in, and the muscles decide they really didn't like it that much. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Do you ever have a collision you remember as the one that jumps?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yep. One at second base. Wasn't at home plate. And I was the hit-eed.
Not the hit-or.
No.
2-2 to short. And there are 2 down as Owen makes the play. There's that Eastern Division race in the National League. These 2 teams will play each other 4 times, 2 here, 2 in Montreal. Pirates magic number 15. Andy Van Slyke, 2 down, bases empty, singled in a run in the first. Jimmy Leland, one of the best managers at hiding from cameras in all of baseball.
I'm going to tell him you said that.
Oh, he'll laugh. He does it intentionally, that son of a gun. 0-1. What was the collision?
What was the collision? Steve Garvey sliding into second base to break up double play. And Steve Garvey, for all the good things he did, was one of the worst sliders in the history of baseball. He didn't know how to slide. His body was like a rock coming in. I have scars on my shins to this day. scar tissue to the point if I even bang my shins into anything, they just immediately start bleeding. And he's one of several that is directly responsible for it.
Down to first base by Van Slyke off the dirt. Colburn will play it. And Abholtz has really settled in here. The first 4 batters up all had hits against him. Since then, nobody's gotten on base. 3-1 Montreal. In Pittsburgh, Gary Thor, Dave Campbell. Big crowd, Buck night tonight. So all those upper deck seats only cost $1. That's a pretty good price to get in and see a game with 2 clubs going at it in a pennant race. So they'll have a pretty good house here tonight. Colburn leading it off. Greg Colburn takes the pitch from Walk for a strike, followed by Wallach and Fletcher. Pirates averaging 22,500 here at home this season. They are trailing Montreal 3-1 as you see the line score over 3. Strike 2.
Whirlybird starting to get the control down. Last inning, 5 pitches, have the Expos eating out of his hands, gets ahead of Colburn 0-2.
Colburn had a double and picked up an RBI in his first at bat. Pirates are used to close ball games. They have the most one-run games in the league and in the majors. 34 and 23 in one-run games. Ball gets loose out there. Lanny Fratteri was good enough to, he's the broadcaster for the Pittsburgh Pirates, to pass along some interesting notes. 11 of the 16 games against the St. Louis Cardinals were decided by 2 runs or less. They went 10-1 in those games against St. Louis and 1 and 2-run games. And 21-6 in 1-run games against the East. 21-6.
Well, the Pirates have played 60% of their games 1 or 2-run games, and Jim Leyland getting grayer by the minute. That'll do it for him.
Boy, those are tough. Bell makes the play, and Colburn is retired, leading off the 4th inning, 1 away. Pittsburgh, Three Rivers Stadium. Gary Thor, Dave Campbell on our ESPN Wednesday Night Baseball as we are down to pennant time, chasing it. The Montreal Expos going after the Pirates, who lead the division by 4. And Montreal's got the lead here, 3-1. Delighted to have you with us here on this Wednesday night. We're rolling along here. Tim Wallach grounded out his first time up. Ball 1.
Tim has not had a good year, but he's stepped up in the month of September. 3 home runs, 14 RBIs in the 12 games he's played. He's the team captain, and they need a little bit of help offensively, and he's provided it the first half of this month.
A youngster by the name of Berry is probably going to be the third baseman of the future, and in fact, about 2 weeks ago, Felipe Alou had made a decision that he was going to use Berry a lot in the last month of the year. Wallach hasn't let that happen. He's performed, and Alou just hasn't felt comfortable about taking him out of the lineup.
Now, the amazing thing about Felipe Alou is a lot of the veteran players, guys like Dennis Martinez, kept saying, go out and get some veterans for the stretch runs, and every time one of those guys said that, the Expos went into their farm system and brought up a youngster, and I think the brass has been proven right. The youngsters are doing a terrific job.
And a great experience for the young players, even if they're not playing, at least they're around the team in a pennant race. And there's no way that doesn't help in another season. Wallach to short again. Bell over to Reedus. 2 ground ball outs. 2 down here in the 4th inning.
Gary, I think there's certainly something to be said for experience going down the stretch run, but if I have a choice between young talented players and some experienced players who have maybe seen their better days, I would like to have youth on my side. They're aggressive. They don't seem to know the word fear, and if they make mistakes, they're aggressive mistakes.
Well, they've got some good ones on that team. Here's a man who surprised everybody by picking up a home run, his 2nd of the year, leading off the 2nd inning, Darren Fletcher. The 3rd run for the Expos. Each pitcher is now retired. The last 8 batters faced here. That one bounces.
Felipe Alou, the manager of the Expos, tells his young players, he says, play to win. Don't play not to lose. And if you really think about that, that makes a lot of sense. Be aggressive. Take it to the other team. You give me 100%, I'll never criticize you.
Fletcher to second base this time. Jose Lean's got it. And that's going to retire the side in order again. So 9 in a row have now been set down by Watt. Pirates will try and get to Abholtz, down by 2. Ready to go in the Pirate half of the fourth inning. Bonds will be leading it off. Barry Bonds takes it outside. He had a single his first time up. Pirate fans exhorting on their offensive leader. Nabholz, the left-hander, gets the breaking ball on the inside corner to him. 1 ball, 1 strike. Where will he play baseball next season? It's still up for grabs, and I'm not sure he knows what he really wants. One day he says, I'm never going to play here again after this year, and the next day he's talking about how he loves to have his family in Pittsburgh and wants to stay here. I think both statements are honest. I think he's really struggling with it. 1 ball, 2 strike count on him. He chased it. He's gone. Ball gets into the equipment. Picked up by Fletcher, and he did not get him. The ball got caught in the chest protector. The runner, I think. Hang on. Home plate umpire Steve Ripley making a call here. I don't know if he's calling interference on the base runner going down or nothing, because Bonds is still at first base. Jimmy Leland out to ask.
Watch his claw get buried in the chest protector, coming right up underneath, and Fletcher digging it out. And you see right there, Steve Ripley has called the ball in the protector, and it's 1 base. That's the ruling. It was inadvertent, and you can see Bonds was a little bit inside. I don't think Barry's touched first base yet.
A strikeout and a wild pitch, and if my memory is right, that's an automatic base.
Yeah, I think that's what I said. I'm going to look in the rule book, and I'm pretty sure once the ball gets lodged in equipment, it's an automatic 1 base.
Yeah. So Bonds is on, even though there was a strikeout there, which is the first for Nabholz with the wild pitch. Puts him on at first base. Now King, who flied out his first time up. Chance for 2. Owen. Marbury. Easy double play. 2 down. Takes care of that problem in a hurry for Chris Nabholz.
Rich Griffin, the PR man for the Montreal Expos, said Chris Nabholz, he believed, was leading the National League in ground balls, or ground ball double plays thrown. But I said, how many? He says, that I can't give you. So we're going to go on a maybe. And ground ball double plays thrown by a pitcher this year.
King hitting into the double play, and that's the 7th time he's done that this season. And quickly, there are 2 down. And here's Lloyd McClendon, who grounded out his first time up. 3-1 ball game. Montreal on top. A victory here, and they could cut the Pittsburgh lead to 3 games. 18 games remaining for the Pirates, including the game played here tonight. 18 remaining for Montreal. Montreal has 7 at home and 11 on the road, including this one. Pirates have 10 at home and 8 on the road, including this one. Pittsburgh has won 2 games in a row, including their 4-2 win against St. Louis last night. That one misses outside. 2 balls and 1 strike on McClendon. Felipe Alou said about a month ago to us when we were in Philadelphia, if they'll let us hang in this race, we'll give them a chase for their money. They are. Foul tipped by McClendon. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Nabholz gave up the RBI single to Van Slyke in the first inning. Got a big play from Marquise Grissom, who threw out Bell trying to score for the first out of the inning. 2-2 is a major league pop-up behind second base. Marbury. And that's going to do it. So only 3 come to the plate in the 4th inning for the Pirates, and they get nothing out of it. Buck back out on the mound to face Owen, Nabholz, and Grissom. And Spike Owens takes the strike. He grounded out his first time up. 5 for 25 lifetime against Bob Walk. Walk has walked 1 and struck out none thus far in the game. Nabholz no walks and 1 strikeout. And that one is taken inside. 1 ball, 1 strike. Montreal 36-20 since the All-Star break. better than the Pirates even. The Pirates had jumped out early on. Montreal had the slow start. Montreal has covered every position in the division. They've been in last. They've been all the way up in the top. And the Pittsburgh Pirates have been there the most. As we said earlier, all but 10 days this season, Pittsburgh Pirates have been in first place. 1 ball, 2 strike delivered. Foul back. In fact, we did find that rule now on the ball that got lodged in that protector, Dave.
509G in the rule book. If a pitch ball lodges in an umpire or catcher's mask or paraphernalia, which would mean the chest protector or the shin guard, and remains out of play on a 3rd strike or a 4th ball, then the batter is entitled to first base, and all runners advance 1 base. And in Ripley's opinion, it was lodged.
And he was right. Jose Lee makes the play. That'll retire Owen 1 down. It definitely was lodged. Hockey is back on the National Hockey League right here on ESPN beginning on Tuesday the 6th at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. You will see the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champion Pittsburgh Penguins hosting the Philadelphia Flyers. Eric Lindros makes his debut. We'll have it for you right here on ESPN. Outside for a ball. There's a Penguins fan right there, Mr. Lemieux and company. 37 playoff games will be included in all of the Stanley Cup finals right here in ESPN. 1-0 pitch, foul back, Naples.
Here, I think the key thing in that ruling is if the ball becomes lodged in the catcher's paraphernalia. Well, Fletcher was able to shake it out and make a play, and doesn't really cover anything in the rule book if it's shaken out. So, but Ripley called it right away and said Bonds was entitled to first base.
That's where the discretion comes in on that rule for the umpire. What constitutes lodged, obviously, is up to the umpire. It's one of those strange plays umpires would get asked on a test.
Darren Fletcher's had some very strange plays this year.
Now Holtz is gone.
If you recall correctly, up in Montreal this year, he ended up catching a paper airplane. Paul Runge called it a strike. It floated out of the upper deck right down to the catcher spot. And Darren Fletcher, trying to throw a runner out in Houston this year, hit his pitcher, Peter Young, right in the back. So Darren has been the master of the weird behind the home plate this year.
He'll have a collection of video spots to live with, won't he?
Darren Fletcher's greatest moments.
When he caught his pitcher, what a shot that was. Here's Marquise Grissom, who is singled and grounded out. 2 down, nobody on. The pitcher was down on his haunches, so he'd get out of the way of the ball being thrown, and was looking back towards second base. Not very funny, really, but boy, it sure looked funny when the ball caught him right on the side of the head. Looks like that old laugh-in routine with a guy on the bicycle, you know, and should come out and hit him with a pocketbook and knock him over.
Yeah, Darren Fletcher's only thrown out 9 out of 70 runners this year. I wonder if that counted as thrown out. He threw his pitcher out.
There are the games affecting the pennant race in the East. Toronto on top right now. Not in that game, but on top in the standings. Fouled off. 1 ball, 2 strike count on Grissom. Marquise Grissom came into this game 2nd in the league in runs scored and is added to at 93. 5th in hits, 3rd in doubles, 1st in stolen bases, and he's added 2 to the stolen base department as he got 2 in the 1st inning to help set up their first run. Sacrifice fly to short by Larry Walker and a double by Greg Colburn, and the home run by Fletcher are the 3 RBIs for the Expos. Walk started, stopped, started again, and Grissom said, no, I'm stepping out on this one.
Meanwhile, 6 of the last 7 outs by the Montreal Expos have come via the ground ball. So Bob Walks got that ball moving down in the strike zone. He had it elevated a little bit in the 1st inning, and it hurt him.
2-2. Marquise to center field. Van Slyke over to try and cut it off, and he's not going to be able to do it. Great speed. Grissom on his way to second base. Ball played by McClendon into the shortstop Bell. No relay at the triple. He can fly. It is a joy to watch speed when it's turned up, and that's 6 triples on the year for Marquise Grissom.
Second baseman
Van Slyke gave it a good shot. He knew he'd have to hit it off, or it was going to be an automatic triple. Of course, the way Grissom runs the bases, it might have been 3 anyway, but Van Slyke gives it a heck of a run, tries to get it on that first big hop, but he also reacts quickly because he knows with Grissom's speed this has a possibility of being an inside the park homer if he doesn't turn and retrieve it in a hurry.
Well, here's a big 2-out chance. Grissom now 2 for 3 in the ball game. And here's Barbary, who's 0 for 2. Walk. Ball 1.
Marquis Grissom stole home earlier this year on Norm Charlton out of the windup, but that's a left-hander with his back turned to Marquis, and actually it was a squeeze play that Grissom left too soon on. Probably with a left-handed batter up and a right-handed pitcher, Marquis not as likely to try to steal home.
Barbary takes it up high. 2 balls, no strikes, and Walk does not want to go beyond Barbary here. The second man in the order, Ivan Calderon, is waiting on deck, and there are 2 down. Barbary, the much lighter hitter, at 240 on the year. 3 balls and no strikes.
Barbary had a monstrous pinch hit last week against Brett Saberhagen, a game that turned a Montreal potential loss into a victory, a big 2 RBI single. One of the Expos' bigger hits in the last couple of weeks.
Barbary with a 3-0. He's taking all the way, and wasn't much question that missed. 4 straight out of the strike zone. Barbary's on with a second walk given up by Walk.
Well, again with the Expos, runners at first and third. You got a key hitter up in Calderon. You figure Alou will give him at least 2 strikes, but with the blazing speed at third and Grissom, if Calderon gets 2 strikes on him, Alou could go to some kind of a delayed double steal or just a double steal.
Walk's got to work out of the stretch now. 2 down, 2 on. Calderon 0 for 1 on a walk and a run scored, batting .252.
I don't mean to sound like an alarmist when Montreal gets men on base, but actually that's been their entire game plan, is just flat take it to the opposition whenever they can.
Calderon squared. It was not the suicide.
Ivan beat out 8 bunts last year in 11 tries, so with Jeff King playing back, if they were going to give him a run, he could beat out a bunt down the third base side. He was going to do it.
It'll gain the attention of Jeff King at third base. 1-0 the count on Calderon, and he drills it into left field for a base hit. Marquis Grissom will score. Calderon comes through with a 2-out RBI single, and the Expos have a 4-1 lead.
Well, Ivan Calderon, a great clutch hitter, last year had 43 RBIs that put his team ahead out of the 75 he had, so he can hit in the clutch. Moise Alou had to go to the bench when Calderon came back, but Ivan has hit over 300 since coming back. You can see with King in, and the ball hit closer to Bell. That ball is just a clean base hit.
That's why Calderon is back, even though he's less than 100% after the operation. And we will get warm-up action now in the bullpen. Patterson and Mason. Here's Larry Walker. Had the sacrifice pop up to short in the first inning. He is 0 for 1. Runners at first and second, 2 down. This is all coming with 2 outs. Owen and Napholtz were retired rather easily. Grissom the triple, Barbary the walk, Calderon the RBI single. Jammed him.
Larry Walker's hit .427 in his last 19 games, .395 in his last 31. This guy has put the Expos on his back and carried him, and that 3-run homer he hit off Anthony Young on Sunday night was probably the Expos' single biggest hit of the year.
And Walker, he's going to be cut down by Lean. Makes the play in time. Reyes got back to cover the bag. and Walk were both there. Good range by Lean, but another run in for the Expos. Pittsburgh fans hoping the Pirates can add to it here as they are now down 4-1. Napholtz to Don Slott. Down low for a ball. Slott hitting at .341 on the year. Flied out his first time up, bottom third of the order, coming up against Napholtz, who has been very effective here. Right back to him. Little height and a rebound for Napholtz. Slott's retired, one away.
Second baseman.
Comes through in that good fielding position on the mound.
Jerry, we always talk about it, but a big, tall, rangy guy like that who gets in a squared-off fielding position, it really allows your shortstop and second baseman to cover the holes between short and third and second and first a lot more instead of having to jam the middle.
Jose Lean. As good a defensive second baseman as there is in the game right here. 0-1 pitch. He chops it. Nabholz turns, finds him, got him. 2 down here in the 5th inning. Ground balls back to the mound. Sunday Night Baseball here on ESPN from Candlestick Park. The Dodgers and the Giants in that great rivalry. 8 o'clock Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. There are some of the people who have been involved over the years. The Mays, the Drysdales, Lasorda, and Jack Clark. Is it going to be the last season at Candlestick? Will the Giants be the St. Pete Giants?
I don't know. I just saw a picture up there of Don Drysdale, and the best thing that ever happened in my career is he retired before I got to the National League.
Nasty. Bob Watt takes it outside for a ball. He's classified right in there with that early win Ryan Duran group. Don't look at me when you get a hit. Don't dig in on me. And don't ever hit a home run. Fouled off.
Yeah, he's subscribed to the Sal Magley school of thought. Is if he knocked you down, sometimes he'd do it again just to let you know what he meant by the first one.
In case you thought that was an accident.
Yeah.
Don't move backwards on this pitch.
Yeah, Drysdale's theory was 2 for 1. For every one of my players you knock down, I'm going to knock down 2 of yours.
1 ball, 1 strike. Walk. Picked up by Spikeholer. And that's a couple of ground ball outs. And a 1-2-3 inning picked up by Nabholz. None of the last 11 batters. Exposed to 4 runs and 5 hits. The Pirates getting 1 in the 1st inning. 1 run and 4 hits. Nabholz and Walk locked up in this one. Bob Watt will be facing Greg Colburn, Wallach, and Fletcher here in the 6th inning. Jimmy Leland's ball club with a 4-game lead over the Montreal Expos, starting this 2-game set against the Expos here. Walk with a strikeout, 2 free passes. It's the pop-up to left. Bonds on the rainmaker with a little Ricky Henderson snatch catch there, and Colburn's retired. He's 1 for 3, 1 away. He has settled in after giving up the 2 runs in the 1st and the home run to Fletcher in the 2nd inning. The other run came in the 5th on that triple by Grissom and the big 2-out single by Yvonne Calderon. Tim Wallach's 0 for 2 has grounded out twice. We're talking about Sean Berry, the young man who is right now the 3rd baseman of the future. Tim Wallach's been able to fight off here. There he is in the center of your picture. Got so many people up now with the call-ups. Guys have to sit outside the dugout and down by the bullpen, and about anywhere else is a free space.
I remember those days. That's even when I was on the 25-man roster.
1 ball, 1 strike. Wallach's in about the worst situation he could be in here. He's facing a right-hander and he's hitting on the road. He's got the lowest batting average against right-handers in the league, and his road average is 192. Yow. 1-2 by Bob Walk. Center field, Andy Van Slyke. Two down, bases empty, and here's Darren Fletcher, who did damage in that 2nd inning with a home run. Line drive shot over the right field wall.
There would be some people that say that you were looking at the cup as half empty in that situation.
Well, if he was at home against a left-hander, I'd look at the other half. Fletcher hitting at 226. 21 RBIs for him. 3 catchers being carried by the Montreal Expos, as a lot of teams will do late in the season. Allows you to make those switches with a catcher and always have 1 left on the bench.
Also allows you to have 1 to be in the bullpen warming up pitchers at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when a lot of guys want to get their throwing in.
Getting your time in is tough this time of year. 1-1. It's why a lot of managers who have teams in the pennant race do not like to have a number of players called up when the roster opens up on the 1st of September. It's tough to get everybody's work in. Batting practice, pitchers in the bullpen. Coaches have a lot to do at this point of the year. Not that they don't always. In for the strike, 2-2 on Fletcher. Got to manage ahead. Jimmy Leland's doing that right now. Ray Miller on his right, Bill Verdon on his left. 2-2 delivery. That one line to center. Van Slyke there. And Bob Walk retires the side in order on 3 fly balls this time after a lot of ground ball outs in this game. But the Bucks are down. Dave Campbell back with you, Pirate fans. We're wrapping it up again as Reedus, Bell, and Van Slyke will face the left-hander Chris Nabholz. Bob Watt has given up the 4 runs in this ball game, but has pitched well. 4 runs, 5 hits off him. Nabholz better. Gary Reedus hitting .222. The leadoff batter takes the strike. Shows you in that first inning. Keep in mind that play at the plate. Marquise Grissom threw out Jay Bell. It is still a key point in this game. Center field not hit hard. Grissom bobbled. Reedus the turn. He'll stop at first base, and a good play. Might have made it, might not have. They're down by 3. Base hit.
Need base runners, and Gary Reedus gets hit on the hands by a curveball. But Marquise Grissom was thinking about it. All of a sudden it gets away, but Reedus had to know in his own mind he could make second, and he wasn't quite sure on it.
So he's at first. Jay Bell, who had his 21-game hit streak, continued in the first inning with a single. Nobody out. And the strike taken by Bell. 3rd longest hit streak in the majors, longest in the National League. Butler behind him now this season, a 19-game hit streak. Bell at 21. Nabholz jammed him.
Mel Rojas up in that Montreal bullpen. Again, the 2 setup guys for manager Felipe Alou are Rojas, the right-hander, and Jeff Pissarro, the left-hander. If Jim Leland has one advantage tonight, maybe Felipe Alou has no idea who Leland will bring out of the bullpen, but I'm not sure Jimmy does either.
Another base hit for Bell. Calderon up with it. Reedus stops at second. Challenges Calderon, who gets it back in. 2 on, nobody out.
Down by 3 when you got Andy Van Slyke hitting 3rd in the inning and Barry Bonds 4th. You're just hoping, if you're a Pirate fan, you can get 2 guys on. And Gary Reedus reads this ball off the bat well, takes a wide turn at second because he knows Calderon's arm is not good, and makes him on throw the ball in.
The eyes of a pennant race.
Interesting here in that you have a left-hander Nabholz to go against Van Slyke and Bonds, but both of them are hitting over 300 against left-handed pitching this year.
Felipe Alou and Jimmy Leland. A 4-1 lead for the Expos. Andy Van Slyke singled in a run in the first inning. 2 on, none out. Breaking ball by Nabholz misses.
Slick may look in until he gets deep in the count. It looked like he was looking for something in the inner half of the plate, but where he's really improved against the left-handers is once he gets 2 strikes, he just soft serves one the other way.
333 batting average. Breaking ball had him fooled. 1 ball, 1 strike. He came into the season with a career .219 batting average against left-handers. He's now batting .317 against them. Left-handers have hit Nabholz this year. One to Van Slyke. Breaking ball down to first. Colbran short, hit the runner. Reedus turns 3rd. He will score. 4-2 and nobody out.
Greg Colburn's got the perfect sight line down to second, but he hits Jay Bell right in the middle of the bag. He's got to throw that ball to the outside part of the bag, and Gary Ritas will spot what's going on and then easily hot-foot it home. So the Expos, one of their youngsters, makes a key mistake. Greg Colburn, you got to throw that ball to the outside part of the bag, and he threw it right over the middle and drilled Bell.
Now it's Barry Bonds, 2 on, a 4-2 Expo lead. Ball 1. The error charge to Colburn on the throw. Ritas scoring his second run of the game. No RBI credited on that. Bonds batting an even 300. Breaking ball, knotted him up. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Right-hander Jeff King due next. This could be Nabholz's last man. We'll have to see.
What a matchup right here. 5th best RBI man in the league, and Barry Bonds fouls it off. No play outside of third. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Felipe Alou uses charts just like the other managers, and Jeff King, the next hitter, is 0 for 7 against Mel Rojas in his career. So a lot of it may be predicated on what Bonds does here, but I still think you may be looking at the end of Nabholz after this batter.
Bonds batting .308 with runners in scoring position. He hit .345 last year in clutch situations. 1 ball, 2 strike count. Breaking ball again late on the swing down the left field line. Wallach giving chase, and not enough room.
Well, it helps different ballparks you play in. If you're playing out on the West Coast, San Francisco, LA, San Diego, chances are that ball's in play. But some of the other ballparks, closer stands, and Tim Wallach runs out of real estate by about 2 rows. Fulton County Stadium in Atlanta, that would have been a big out.
One and 2. Good stop made by Fletcher. Nabholz bounced it. Count goes to 2 and 2. Who leads the league in walks. They pitched around him whenever they can, 114 times, but they can't hear. The 2-2 delivery to him. Breaking ball towards second base. Barbary, 1 relay. They got him. They got Bonds to hit into the double play. Bell moves over to third, but now there are 2 down.
Well, the Expos may have felt that they got a bad break when Tim Wallach ran out of real estate, but in retrospect, Brett Barbary ranging to his right could have given it to Owen, but also knew that he had the play right in front of him, although he did have to make an off-balance throw. He was perfect. And Greg Colburn, the first baseman, mighty happy that that double play may have bailed him out.
The skipper is going to make the change. 9th time that Barry Bonds has hit into a double play. This one a huge one. And Chris Nabholz got the ground ball he needed. He'll be leaving the ball game here, but he's got a chance to win it.
Some full commission brokers are finding
ESPN Major League Baseball is brought to you by the Michelob family of beers, because some days are better than others. And by Subway, sandwiches and salads made fresh before your eyes.
Well, if it were not a double play situation, Barbary would be playing there and the shortstop Owen about there. But you see him here, double play depth, and they catch a break here because Barry Bonds hits it right up the middle. But Barbary playing over close to the bag gets it. If he's playing in his normal spot, that ball's probably in the center field. But that's one of those ifs and buts. And when you play double play depth, sometimes you get fortunate. The ball hit up the middle, and that's where the pitchers try to pitch it. And in that case, Nabholz made the pitch and Barbary made the play.
Mel Rojas on in relief. Bell is at third base. Jeff King is up. A 4-2 lead for the Expos. Rojas and the off-speed breaking ball, strike 1. What a season Rojas is having. and a third shutout innings in a row as he comes on in this game, and he hasn't allowed a hit with a runner in scoring position since August 19. And he's not going to do it here if King keeps seeing that kind of pitch. 0-2.
And the numbers, 22 men have been in scoring position, has not allowed a hit. It looks like he's throwing Jeff 2 forkballs. The bottom has fallen out.
He's inherited 55 runners and has retired 47 of them on base. 0-2 the count. Hit him. That's not what he intended. King didn't like it a whole lot, but Rojas obviously on an 0-2 count had no intention of putting him on base.
Well, we mentioned the Montreal Expos lead the National League in hit batters with 47. That's 4-8. And certainly in that case, not a situation where Rojas wanted to hit Jeff King by any stretch of the imagination. And this one drills him right in the elbow, a little bit above the elbow bone. Maybe he got about half bone, half muscle, and King looks out. Jeff, he's not trying to hit you in that situation. Just got away from it.
We will get with runners at first and third now. He's all right after being hit. King there at first base, and Bell over at third, and Lloyd McClendon due-up will be coming out of the game, and Alex Cole will be the pinch hitter with 2 down here in the 6th inning.
Kind of an interesting call by Jimmy Leland. Orlando Merced leads the National League in RBIs off the bench with 11, but he goes to Cole here, evidently keeping Merced in reserve.
Now the Pirates have the potential tying runs on base, and Cole stands in with 2 down and 2 on. Rojas had gone ahead on the count 0-2. Cole 3 for 13 as a pinch hitter. The left-handed batter takes the pitch up high, ball 1. 26-year-old out of Fayetteville, North Carolina, from the Cleveland Indians. 1-0 delivery by Rojas, outside corner.
Felipe Alou has not called on his son Moise tonight, but he has called on his nephew, Mel Rojas. Family affair up in Montreal. Felipe with Tim Laker, the new catcher, and Laker a rookie. Quite frankly, they say they call about 1/2 to 3/4 of the pitches for Laker.
Cole, who is 0 for 15, is 0 for 16. As he flies out to Marquise Grissom in center field. Only 1 run ended, a couple of hits, an error, and 2 left off. Tom was talking about with Baltimore out by 4 and Milwaukee by 5 in the games being played. No score in Boston, and 4-0 in Toronto. Cleveland on top. Boston.
I think that radio station had the funeral march today.
Like that car.
They were a little premature last year, but
this year it's over. Teams eliminated in the East, Detroit and Boston. In the West, Texas, California, KC, and Seattle. Philadelphia's out in the National League East. Houston, San Francisco, LA are out in the West. Those are all mathematical eliminations. 2-0 count on Spike Owen. Owen batting .275 in the season. The 0 for 2 here tonight. Lob walk has gone the distance for the Pirates. Gets it in 2-1. Owen has only struck out 28 times in 414 plate appearances. Great contact hitter. Baltimore's added another in the 6th on KC. Walk, 1 strikeout, 2 free passes. Misses inside to him. 3-1 now.
Well, Bob gave up 2 in the first, settled in, then gave a home run up to Fletcher. Triple by Grissom and a single by Calderon scored the other.
Center field. Andy's there to get it. He's made the last 3 putouts now on fly balls. 1 away here in the 7th inning. Baseball coming up Friday night, the doubleheader. Jose Canseco and the Texas Rangers will be taking on Toronto, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. That'll be followed by the Oakland A's, with Ruben Sierra, the team that swept Minnesota with a victory today, takes on Edgar Martinez and Seattle. Our Friday night doubleheader right here in ESPN. Montreal leading it here 4-2 in the 7th inning with 1 down. This is the catcher. Laker came on in the double switch. first ball hitting pops it up behind the screen.
Gary, this has been kind of a typical Montreal Expo game tonight. Very aggressive on the base pass, forcing the action, getting good pitching from Nabholz, making an error. The Expos are 10th in the National League in fielding, but they overcame it with a key double play ball. It's been atypical for the Pirates from the standpoint they have not gotten the clutch hit when they really needed it, and they might have made a mistake when Jay Bell took a fly ball that Van Slyke should have had, and it cost them a run.
Laker takes it inside. 1 ball, 1 strike on him. First Nabholz, their starter, could win this 5 2/3. 2 runs, but only 1 earned on 5 hits. He didn't walk anybody, and he struck out 1. A very good start for Nabholz here tonight, and they needed it and got it. Walk's trying to become a 10-game winner here tonight, but he's going to need some help offensively right now.
Walk's scheduled to hit 3rd next inning, so you're probably looking at his final inning and bullpen getting ready. Mason and Danny Nagel.
Down to 3rd, King. And there are 2 down in the 7th inning. Tommies.
All right, Gary, let's go back to Baltimore and show you how the Orioles made it 2-0. Chris Hoyles down the third base line. And the swinging bunt scores Devereaux. Baltimore's had a lot of trouble scoring runs of late, but now they have 2 across for Mike Mussina as they go into the 7th inning. Remember, Toronto trails the Indians, and the Indians have the bases loaded at Skydome. Gary?
We have 2 down here in the 7th inning. Marquise Grissom, the leadoff batter. Drills it deep to left field, way back. Goodbye, home run. Marquise Grissom has tripled, singled, and homered in this game. 5-2 Expos.
Well, Bob Walk started off Marquise Grissom with a curveball 4 straight times, and the 4th time Marquise sat there and waited for it and found it.
Was that a shot? The home runs tonight, the one by Fletcher and the one here by Grissom, line drives.
See if the eyes get any bigger. Yeah, say they did. And Marquise, you can slow down, Marquise. Nobody's going to catch that one.
14 home runs on the year for Marquise Grissom. His first RBI of this ball game and his 64th of the year. He has now scored 3 runs in this game. He got a shot at the cycle. Fouled off.
If I'm not mistaken, Marquise has already hit for the cycle 1 time in his career. We'll look that up, but the only thing missing is a double, and he's 3rd in the National League in 2 base hits with 36.
What a performance. 2 down. 1-1 the count on Barbary, who's drawn a walk. Otherwise 0 for 2. He's given up 2 home runs in this game and 10 on the season. In 123 innings pitched. 2-1 delivered. That's going to be a base hit. Well, Barbary is on as he adds to the attack. And again, as they've done before, the Expos are doing this with 2 outs.
Well, the Bluebirds are out. They're calling for Bob Walk's scalp. Jim Leland would like to leave Walk in because he's the 3rd hitter, but there's been many a skipper get burned trying to get that last out in an inning.
7 hits now for the Montreal Expos in this game, and they've made them count. Ivan Calderon. Walk will stay in. He had a single his last time up. One of the big 2-out hits in this game.
Barbary figures to go somewhere in this sequence. 2 outs. Calderon, a little bit of a weak shoulder, probably doesn't have the power he's had in the past. Barbary only 7 steals, but again, a Lou's going to take it to the Pittsburgh Pirates just to send a message.
In the first inning, Colburn had the 2-out double for an RBI. In the 5th inning, they picked up a run on a 2-out single by Ivan Calderon. And now in the 7th inning, they've had the 2-out homer by Marquise Grissom. Felipe Alou's got to like that. This club's not giving up outs, which sometimes happens with 2 down, nobody on. Not for the Expos tonight. 5 runs on 7 hits.
And seen a few baseball games in his life. Felipe Alou.
Marquise Grissom adding to his outstanding year. Calderon chases 1-1.
Felipe was kidding one time. He said, you know, he says, I've got 35 years in baseball, but I really have 70 because I've managed or played in the winter leagues every year as well. So 70 years of baseball experience, and he's borrowed a little bit from people he's admired, and he has made himself a terrific manager. He tells the players whenever somebody questions him, he says, hey, you play, I'll manage, and my coaches will coach. We all have jobs to do, and your job is not to coach or manage. And they look at him and say, yes, sir.
He's done his part, and they're doing theirs. Calderon fouls it off. I was just looking. Do you believe the Montreal Expos have now out-homered the Pittsburgh Pirates? Montreal's got 95 home runs on the year. The Pirates have 94. Don't think that would have been expected. That 95th hit by that man, Marquise Grissom, is 14.
Of course, Bonilla's bat gone, so you figured the Pirates are going to be down a little bit in home runs this year.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Barbary on at first base. Walk will hold him there. Montreal Expos this season, as far as their offensive attack is concerned, they have done it with the 5th best batting average, tied for 5th in homers, but the 2nd fewest left on. When they get them on, they run, 2nd in stolen bases, and then they get them home. They don't leave a lot of folks on base. Pittsburgh's been just the other way. They've left the most on base, but they've got the 2nd best on base percentage, and they're 4th in slugging.
Let's see if Sluggo may call for a pitch out, and that appears exactly. Whoops, Walk shook him off. We'll see.
1-2 count. Calderon reaching, just got enough of it to stay alive.
Ivan had quite a baptism down in the Florida State League when he went down for rehab. He got to face Brian Taylor, the phenom of the Mets, or the Yankees, excuse me. And Calderon was impressed. Struck out 3 times against Brian Taylor. That'll impress you.
Inside again by a walk. Yeah, you'll talk highly about an opposing pitcher if he struck you out 3 times. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Walk in a struggle right now here in the 7th inning. Trying to get that 3rd out against Calderon. Batting .258 on the year, but of course limited at bats in light of the injury that kept him out. That shoulder operation, and he's going to step out on Walk.
I don't know if Don Slaught has enough fingers. Walk throws about 5 different pitches from 3 different positions: sidearm, 3/4, and overhand.
3 balls, 2 strikes, and the fans really starting to buzz now about Walk staying in.
Well, I was right about one thing. Brett Barbery's going to run. Now, 3-2, 2 outs.
Guaranteed. 5-2 lead for Montreal. They've added 1 here in the 7th inning. Calderon, 21 RBIs. Runner goes. See walking. 3rd walk given up. Calderon's on with 2 down, and the fans want Bob Walk out of there.
Yeah, they're probably going to get their wish. Jim Leland's got to get Bob Patterson back on track. Patterson's given up 3 horrendous home runs over the last 2 weeks. And I think Leland wants to try to get his confidence level up. It's going to bring him into a game that they're behind, but facing a key batter in Larry Walker.
Well, he wanted to leave him in, as Dave said, because of the at-bat coming up, but not going to be able to get it done. Denny Nagel is on his way in from the bullpen, and Bob Walk will leave. 5-2 over Pittsburgh. Gary Thorne, Dave Campbell here on ESPN's Wednesday Night Baseball. This Montreal team is for real. They're impressive and they're fun to watch.
Gary, they really are, and the whole thing is the key to their team is aggressiveness, and that's Felipe Alou says, hey, if we're going to lose, we're going to lose being aggressive. We don't have any fear. We're going to take it to you, and he says again, we play to win. We don't play not to lose. Interesting.
His son, Mose Alou, has come in to be the pinch runner for Ivan Calderon over there at first base. And now we'll see whether or not Nagel can get the final out here that Walk couldn't get. Retired the first 2. Grissom had the home run. Barbary picked up the single. Calderon the walk. 2 on, 2 down. Here's Larry Walker. And he's due down to first base. Fair ball. Reedus. Nagel covering, and he gets the out on 1 pitch. But the 14th home run of the season picked up by Grissom has added to the lead. Montreal on top by 3. It's stretch time in Pittsburgh. Inning stretch time with the Montreal Expos continuing to lead here. Bottom of the 7th. Don Slaught will lead it off against reliever Mel Rojas. And hey, a little inside there. Ball 1. Alou came on as a pinch runner for Ivan Calderon. Mose Alou stays on in left. Calderon with that bad shoulder can't throw 100%, so the skipper Felipe Alou makes that change often for defensive purposes late in the game. Rojas with a 1-0. Slott's going to base hit, and Alou's going to have to chase it down. Slott on his way to second base. Alou in the corner, got by him. Slott's going to go to third. Relay throw coming in on the money. Safe by a whisker.
Slot, once Moises Alou could not come up with this ball, as we see it easily fared on the third base line. It looked like Slot had a gimme triple, but Alou made some kind of a throw and made this a lot closer than Don Slot would have liked to. Look at the throw, hardly even looking. He throws a perfect strike to Tim Wallach, and this is close. If he throws it any more inside the bag, Don Slot would be walking with his hat in his hand back to the dugout, and he would have said, boy, did I goof up. But Alou made a terrific throw after missing the ball in the corner.
Boy, was he off balance when he made that. I couldn't believe he got it anywhere near the bag. Gary Varsho pinch hitting for Jose Lean. Slot with his third triple of the year at third base. They played back except at third. Rojas gets the foul ball by Varsho.
It was almost shades of the 1990 National League Championship Series when Bobby Bonilla hit a ball that Eric Davis made one of the greatest throws I've ever seen in the history of baseball and threw Bonilla out trying to stretch it into a triple. To this day, I don't know how Eric Davis threw him out.
Alou almost did it right there on the first ball hit to him. Leading pinch hitter, ball bounces away, held by Laker in front of him. Leading pinch hitter for the Pirates is Gary Varsho. 11 for 45, including a home run and 5 pinch hit RBIs. He's had more pinch hits and more pinch hit opportunities than any other Pirate. A big chance right here in the bottom of the 7th inning to add to Pittsburgh totals and get them back to within 2 of the Expos. 1-1 by Rojas. Oh, did he drill that deep and foul?
Gary Varsho's hit the only pinch hit homer the Pirates have had this year. That one certainly had the distance, but well out in front. Rojas, fastball middle of the plate, and Varsho was very quick on that swing.
That was a shot. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Let's see if the adage lives that you only get 1 good pitch to hit in every at-bat. Down low, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Rojas is going to be a little bit more careful after he watched that ball go foul. That'll wake you up in a hurry on the mound. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Slot on at third base. Infield playing way back. 2-2 the count. Rojas gets his first strikeout.
Got a dandy forkball. He made Jeff King miss badly with a couple of swings, and after Varsho had the 1 fastball to hit, he threw a couple of off-the-table forkballs to him. So Mel Rojas doing his job, and behind him down in the bullpen, Jeff Becerro is warming. And one of those other guys is setting up.
Cecil Espy will be coming up while we wait. Let's check in with Tom. They've got a couple of teams to get over, though. They got to get by Baltimore and then Toronto in order to capture first place, and time's running out. Cecil Espy, as the clock continues to be punched here. Espy will be pinch hitting for Nagel, the pitcher. Espy, the second most used pinch hitter. 10 for 43 with 8 pinch hit RBIs. Switch hitter. Batting .281 left-handed and .220 right-handed. He has Slot at third base. 1 down. Rojas working out of the stretch.
Montreal's pitching staff under Felipe Alou has been terrific. But since the All-Star break, their bullpen has the best numbers in the National League during that period. Part of it, Rojas, who sets it up along with Pissarro, and then John Wetland, who has 34 saves, and they'll be trying to get it to him tonight.
Rojas, the 0-1 delivery, and Espy fouls it back. Strike 2. Rojas, another product of the organization. From the Dominican Republic, 25 years old, turns 26 in December. Came up for the first time in '90, worked 23 games, and last year 37 games. Went 3-3 with 6 saves, and now this season has taken over that setup role, and he's a good one. Espy steps out.
Somebody asked me a couple of weeks ago if Jim Leland liked that bullpen by committee. I said, are you crazy?
0-2 delivery.
I mean, Leland would love to have a bullpen with all the roles defined, much like the Expos have, much like his great friend Tony La Russa has. Everybody's setting it up to Dennis Eckersley, but Jimmy just doesn't have a certified closer, so they really have to scramble every night. Roger Mason, sometimes it's him, sometimes Patterson. Last night, Danny Cox, sometimes it's Denny Nagel. Basically, they pitch guys out of the bullpen, whoever is the most rested on a given night.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Rojas down low. Another good stop made. It's a couple Lakers made behind the plate. He's had to go down on balls that have been in the dirt. Laker getting it done both times, getting the ball in front of him.
Well, Tim Laker in a game earlier this month had 3 pass balls in a 1-ball game, but he blocks that one nicely. He's got a terrific throwing arm, and that's why manager Felipe Alou has him in there for the defense.
2 balls, 2 strikes, 1 out. Don Slott started this inning off with his 3rd triple. He's still at third base. Now Rojas is trying to keep him there. And he may. He has struck out 2. Tommies.
All right, Gary, let's go back to the pennant race, such as it is in the NL West. Jeff Blauser, second night in a row, going deep at Riverfront. The Braves have yet to win at Riverfront, but they lead it 3-2 in the 8th down this 2-run shot. And if they do win, their magic number will be reduced to 8. Back to Pittsburgh.
Here it's a 5-2 ball game. Slots on at third, 2 down. Orlando Merced is coming on as the pinch hitter. They'll go out to talk about him.
Joe Kerrigan out. Merced, a much better hitter left-handed. Here's that fork ball that you just see the bottom falling out of, and the Pirate hitters have really been mesmerized by that. Not a lot of break, but just enough to get Espy and Varsho before him.
He gives up a triple, then strikes out the next 2 batters. Both pinch hitters. Now he'll face the 3rd pinch hitter in a row in Orlando Merced. He's 9 for 22 as a pinch hitter. There it is again, strike 1.
Split finger pitch of the fork ball has really become a dominant pitch in baseball. Some people still argue that it ruins arms, but when you're throwing it, it is the toughest pitch for hitters to hit. Tony Gwynn says he still hadn't figured out a way to master that pitch.
Rojas with the 0-1. 1, you can't pick it up, and 2, it looks like it's going right down the plate till you start the swing, and then it drops off the table.
It really does. The toughest thing on a breaking pitch like a slider or a curveball, there's a lot of rotation on the ball. You can pick up the spin if your eyes are sharp, but the fork ball doesn't have a lot of spin, and it's really difficult to pick it up.
1-1. He didn't pick that one up. 1 ball, 2 strikes. You see why Rojas has been so effective this year.
You can see the little bit of split in between his fingers as he delivers it. A lot of arm motion, ball just not getting there. The hitter's out in front.
61st game he has appeared in. 1-2 delivery. Merced had to reach down and golf it foul.
Went to a fastball away. Orlando just got a little piece of it.
Montreal Expos leading here by a score of 5-2. Trying to cut the Pittsburgh lead in the Eastern Division of the National League to 3 games if they can win here tonight. We are in the 7th inning. Slot still at third, the 1-2.
Well, Rojas missed with that fork ball. Let's watch how he positions it into his glove. Coming coming up. You see him with a little bit of a split. Now, that's not the true forkball. That's more of the split finger.
2-2 gets away. Not far enough for Slot to move up.
Forkball, you have a lot bigger space in between your fingers.
The ongoing dispute, as Dave mentioned, is whether or not it hurts your elbow. For a lot of them, is it spreading out those tendons and go back to your elbow? And Roger Craig insists it's not true. Others say yes, it does. 3-2 the count. Walker. Well, he's given up a triple, struck out 2 and walked 1.
Felipe did not like that. He had Merced 1 and 2, and Lou may have felt he got a little too fine. He didn't want to see the tying run come to the plate in the person of the red-hot Jay Bell.
Slot with a triple at third base. And the walk. Orlando Merced at first. Now Jay Bell, who's 2 for 3 tonight, 2 singles. He got thrown out of the plate in the first inning by Marquise Grissom in a play that still looms large in this game. A chance to gain some ground back right here in this at-bat. Batting .268 on the year. He's got 2 on with the Pirates down by 3. .321 with runners in scoring position for Bell. Ball 2.
Mel Rojas better get Bell, or we're going to see Mr. Facero. Felipe Alou may see those numbers that Van Slyke and Bonds have against left-handers, but he's going to make them prove it too. So Bell is Rojas's man. If Jay reaches, Mel's going to be in the shower.
Mel Rojas, a 2-0 count. 3-0.
Decision time for Jimmy Leland. Figures that Bell's going to see a fastball. He's red hot with a bat. You turn him loose, he does have 9 home runs.
Walked him on 4 straight, and the bases are loaded for Andy Van Slyke. Fans are on their feet. Strange inning for Rojas. A triple, then he strikes out 2, then he walks 2. The races should come down to this. The Pittsburgh Pirates are leading in the standings by 4 games over the Montreal Expos. They are down by 3 runs in the 7th inning, and they have the bases loaded with 2 outs.
Enough to stop your heart, unless you're a somewhat seasoned relief pitcher. Jeff Facero, who's been in 62 games, has seen many critical situations. He's got Andy Van Slyke, second hottest hitter in the National League behind Gary Sheffield. Many extra base hits, 82 RBI, so he's got his work cut out for him, but Van Slyke is only 1 for 9 lifetime against Facero.
There you see the batting leaders. Sheffield still after that triple crown. Now, what a moment in this 1992 baseball season. He's 0 for 6 with the bases loaded this year. Van Slyke has them full. 2 down. Pissarro, breaking ball. Fair ball. Colbert, he got him on 1 pitch. He's 0 for 7 with the bases loaded. And the Pittsburgh Pirates leave them full in the 7th. In 2/3 innings, 5 runs, 7 hits, 3 walks, and a strikeout. Nagel came on and got the only out he recorded on 1 pitch. We'll see the 3rd Pittsburgh pitcher now.
Roger Mason slides out of the Pittsburgh bullpen. His job to hold the fort. Give his mates 2 more shots at him. The Pirates have not delivered in the clutch tonight. Expos have. That's been a difference. And Roger Mason comes on. Home run ball has hurt him this year, like several of the Buck relievers. Many defensive changes. John Wayner takes over at 3rd. Jeff King moves to 2nd. And Orlando Merced, who came in to pinch hit, is at first base.
Mason ready to go, and Montreal has worked themselves out of some jams in this ball game. A couple left on by Pittsburgh in the first inning. A couple more left on in the sixth, and the bases left loaded in the seventh inning. Chris Nabholz, their starter, still the pitcher of record with a chance to win this one. He went 5 2/3, gave up 2 runs, 1 earned on 5 hits. Rojas had a strange 1 inning as he gave up that triple to slot and then survived it, giving up 1 hit, walked 2, struck out 2, and hit a batter. Now Mason on here with a 2-0 count on Greg Colburn, who doubled in the first inning and had an RBI. 2 balls and 1 strike.
Well, the Pirates skipper has seen his club have several opportunities tonight, but they have not cashed in. They've really not played Pirate baseball tonight. He knows it. So do his players. They don't have to be told. They're an intelligent group of guys.
Big cut by Colburn, who fouls it back. Montreal Expos have made all the big plays and gotten the big hits. A couple of RBIs coming with 2 down. Grissom made the play in the first inning. Really cut down what could have been a much bigger inning for the Pirates when he threw out Bell at the plate. Mason starts it out with a strikeout, 1 down. Let's check in with Tom Eaves.
All right, Gary, let's check in at Skydome. Glenn Allen Hill had a home run earlier, 3-run shot. And the former Blue Jay strikes again. This time a solo variety deep over the wall. And it is 6-0. And this is Glenn Davis with a solo shot of his own at Camden Yards, 3-0 ball.
Long fly ball to left field. Bonds Van Slyke back near the warning track, and Bonds hauls it in. Tim Wallach giving it a ride about 375. He's now 0 for 4. And there are 2 down here in the 8th inning. Friday night, we'll start out our doubleheader of baseball with the Texas Rangers going into Canada to take on Carter and the Blue Jays. 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, as Toronto trying to hang on to win that thing. They are up by 4 over Baltimore, but could be less than that tonight. Then we'll see the A's and the Mariners. 2 down, nobody on.
Really was just kind of a pleasure to watch Van Slyke and Bonds on that fly ball. They've played so long together, they just have each other read. Andy was kind of drifting, looking at Barry. He knew Barry had it under control. It's part of playing together for a long time, and especially being 2 great outfielders like that. They really know each other so well.
1 ball, 1 strike on Jeff Pissarro, the pitcher, batting 7th in the order. Here's a guy, another one. He was one of those free agents because he'd spent 6 years in the minors without a day played at the major league level. Career started in '84. He never got a chance at the big leagues till last year. And now look. Turned into a guy they rely on out of the pen, and he hits the ball to right center field where they were not playing him. Andy Van Slyke will chase it down. Pissarro says, "Can I get 3?" He thinks so. He trips and falls down. Now he's caught in a rundown. He'll be tagged out. A double. And an embarrassing moment.
He left the divot. Jeff Pissarro gets his first hit of the year. Looked like a pretty good athlete. Hit the ball well. Was running well. He's watching the ball. It's in front of him. He's not watching his base coach because it's in front of him. But once he gets a second, he picks a bad time to look back right when he's touching the base. And I think that threw him a little out of kilter. And flat tire time for Jeff Pissarro. And Felipe Alou is going to make a change. Pissarro came out. But Alou didn't like what he saw, so he's going to bring somebody out of the bullpen to pitch. So Pissarro must have sustained some type of injury there.
Well, boy, he sure took a pretty nasty fall, and you can suffer some pretty good burns on the artificial carpet. And he's going to leave the ball game here.
Let's see if maybe we can pick out what the injury is. He goes rear end over tea kettle. He could have hurt any number of things here, but he hits that one spot and puts that left hand down, but that doesn't seem to cause any problems. But no, could be hand, could be shoulder, could be ribs, could be anything. And we're going to have a pitching change, and I'm sure Wetland will get as many pitches as he wants to warm up because of the injury.
Could also be that he might be a little bit shook up by all that, and Felipe Alou may have decided just not to take the chance in this big ball game and leave him in. Jeff Pissarro will not forget his first major league hit. That's the first one ever. A double, and then falls going to third base.
On national television. Ankle goes, dust flies. You see him starting to put the hand down, but he doesn't appear to put any pressure on that hand whatsoever. And then he lands on the elbow, rolls over. But even if I were a medical doctor based on that, I can't tell you exactly where he got hurt. But obviously he was shaken up, and Andy Van Slyke picks up a nifty 11th assist of the year, one of the easier ones.
8-4 on the putout that time. King came over to make the play. So here is John Wetland, one of the biggest finds in Major League Baseball this season. The Montreal Expos having.
Really started to blossom as a closer at Albuquerque in the Dodger chain last year. Gives a lot of credit to Kevin Kennedy, who's now the bench coach for the Montreal Expos, to help in his conversion. Also said that Jay Howell, who pitches in relief for the Dodgers, was a big help to him, just talking about the mental aspects of pitching in short relief.
Also a defensive replacement. Tim Foley's come on to play at first base for the Montreal Expos as Greg Colburn is out. So Foley on.
Well, both managers using the tactic tonight. If we have them, we're going to play them. I mean, we've seen a lot of players on both sides to get to this point. Dennis Martinez, who's working tomorrow night, is chatting, and Montreal trying to close this to a 3-game gap with Alou going tomorrow.
Jimmy Leland will have Danny Jackson 7 and 11 making the start against Martinez 16 and 11. And the ball game being played tomorrow night. Leland's Pittsburgh Pirates, winners of 12 out of their last 16 games, have 7 games in this homestand, while the Expos are 1-1 on a road trip. And we'll see them play 2 here in Pittsburgh and 3 in New York after they split a couple of games in Philadelphia.
Now, Montreal is certainly showing no fear of the road since the All-Star break, going 16 and 5 out on the highways, 41 and 29 on the road for the Montreal Expos this year. And the other number that sticks out at you startingly is that last year the Expos were 28 and 61 in their own division, the Eastern Division. This year, 40 and 22.
So he makes the change here, bringing Wetland on. Wetland will be starting the inning from scratch here. Before 37,436 paid and 40,079 the total in the ballpark.
Well, some of the fans getting a little antsy, not understanding the rule that when a relief pitcher comes on to replace an injured player, he gets as much time as he wants. But some of the fans here are anxious for this game to resume.
Felipe Alou taking this team into a pennant race. Obviously, it's been a while for a lot of these players, and he's trying to keep things on the even keel and keep his ball club in it.
Any more pressure. I tell people that if you go to our clubhouse, you wouldn't know we're in a pennant race because you don't hear people talk about or hasten themselves on the clubhouse. This is a very relaxed club. We know we are underdogs. We'll take the finish last. We just want to close some mouth, make some people look bad. You know, hopefully we're good enough to win it. We think we are.
Off the wall. Marquise Grissom gets it in, but Bonds has got his second hit of the game. A lead-off double here in the 8th inning. Number 31.
Gary, I can't tell you how many times I see relief pitchers come into that situation where they're given as much time as they want to warm up, and they always think they're ready, or sometimes they're in a hurry, but usually the first or second pitch, they snap their neck with whiplash watching a rocket go off the bat. And Barry Bonds jumps on a first pitch fastball and only misses a home run by about 2 feet.
Bonds, who piles up the extra base hits, 31 doubles, 4 triples, and 29 home runs. He's at second base. And Jeff King up. The Pirates chance after chance, but have been unable to make the big play or get the big hit.
That play of Pissarro's really could loom large. You know, Felipe Alou only wanted Wetland to work an inning or an inning and a third, and all of a sudden he had to call on him much sooner than he wanted.
Wetland checking Bonds at second base. The breaking ball outside corner. Strike 0-2 on King.
Wetland worked in last night's game. Only 1 inning. He walked a batter. Pitch count is going to be important, but he throws 2 strikes in a row to Jeff King.
Pissarro ended up working only third of an inning, 1 pitch. 5-2 lead for the Expos, bottom of the 8th. Expos 8 hits, the Pirates 8. Fouled off outside of first. Count remains 0-2 on King.
Well, if the Expos go on to win this game, Pissarro will get a hold, a hit, and horrendous razzle from his teammates afterwards.
I'm sure someone will present him with the alleged ball of his first hit with some neat inscription on it. Probably it'll have a slice on it or a little burn on it somewhere. But that's only if they win. They lose, he'll never hear a thing about it until next spring training.
Yeah, we will give you a report on Pissarro when we get it, because he's a key man in that Expos bullpen as they get down the stretch.
0-2 the count on King. Wetland's delivery. Overhand. Fouled off. Foley over. No dice.
Gary, we talked about Andy Van Slyke and how he's found left field, especially this year against left-handed pitching. But they tell us the same thing about Jeff King. In the first half of the year, he tried to pull everything. And a number of people with the Pirates say he'll now go the other way with 2 strikes on him. And we've seen evidence of that. The last 2 pitches were away, and he tried to hit the ball to right field.
You give yourself that much better chance to do something. Andy Van Slyke. The breaking ball misses outside. 1 ball, 2 strikes on King.
A lot of good hitters go with the philosophy once they get 2 strikes on themselves. They say, I'm going to make the pitcher jam me. That's going to allow them to wait longer, think opposite field, and if they get hit on the fist once in a while, they can loop it over the infield, but at least they'll put it in play.
King working from behind the count here. 1-2 delivery by Wetland. Chase that one. He's got a strikeout.
Well, Jeff King had a very good idea until Wetland made the perfect pitch on him, and he bailed a little bit on that one. So John Wetland gets a key strikeout. And one thing the Pirates have not been able to do tonight is advance runners once they get on the bases. They had Slot at third, nobody out, couldn't score them, and they haven't done a good job of moving people up on outs.
Credit the pitching of the Expos, because this Pirate team has the best average in the league with runners in scoring position. As a team, they hit 265, so when you're able to get the Pirates out with runners on, you're doing what most clubs have not been able to do this year. John Wetland getting the strikeout, 1 away. Bond still on at second base, and that will bring up Alex Cole, who came on to pinch hit and struck out and flied out rather in the 6th inning. The 0 for 1. Batting .303 in the year. Shallow in the outfield. And Wallach in at third base. Outside corner.
One of the things the Montreal Expos have done well tonight is prevent the Pirates from getting bases on balls. They had 2 off Rojas, but those have been the only 2 of the night. And the Pirates lead the league in base on balls as hitters. In fact, they've had 101 more than the Expos this year, and that's translated into 28-plus runs for Pittsburgh.
That's why their on-base percentage is so high. And as we said, when you get people on and you have good clutch hitting, which they've done, you lead the league in runs.
Lead it in runs. They throw strikes. They catch the ball generally, and they're an aggressive base running team. Pretty good package for the Bucks, but they aren't playing their best game tonight.
Fouled off by Cole. 1 ball, 2 strike count.
Interesting if you look ahead, assuming the Atlanta Braves are going to walk with the West, which they certainly are well on their way to. Montreal Expos have beaten the Atlanta Braves 8 out of 12 this year. The Pirates only 5 out of 12. Montreal really seems to match up a lot better. Tommy Glavine is 3-11 lifetime against the Montreal Expos, albeit most of these Montreal players are new players.
1-2 the count. Bonds jumping around at second base. Wetland comes high. We saw Tommy Glavine in an outing in Atlanta, and we asked him whether or not he was healthy, whether or not his arm was bothering him, and he said no. After the game, talking with Tommy Glavine, he wasn't lying, but he's not well. It's his rib muscle that's bothering him, and he's going to miss a start. And he's a little concerned. 2-2. Base hit. Barnes makes the turn. He'll stop. Alou is playing very shallow in left field. Runners at first and third. That breaks an 0 for 16 for Cole.
Well, Barry Bonds, one of the most aggressive runners in baseball, but on this one, with the left fielder playing so shallow for Alex Cole, and the fact the Pirates are trailing by 3, Bonds wisely holds up at third base. See Barry edging off. He gets a good read right off the bat on this one. He knows where the infielders are playing, but he also knows that Alou was playing right behind shortstop, and he wisely held up. That run doesn't mean that much right now, other than the fact that the Pirates have brought the tying run to the plate and Don Slott.
Expos lead at 5-2. Pirates now have 9 hits. They've got 2 on and only 1 out. Slott at the plate. They'll hold Cole at first.
Interesting here, Don Slott in the platoon situation with Mike LaValliere. But Don Slott coming in tonight was hitting .386 against right-handed pitching, and Mike LaValliere is 2 for his last 30. So Jim Leyland's going to stay with a hot hand here. We'll see how it works out.
Don Slott. We understand Jeff Pissarro, who tripped on that first base hit, the double, has a sprained ankle. And they would say that even if he didn't have one.
Yeah, Bernie Kosar, they thought, had a sprained ankle on Monday night. Ooh.
Don Slott this season, another one of the good clutch hitters, 274 with runners in scoring position and 342 overall. First and third and 1 out. Wetland's pitch. He was playing for the base hit, and he did go after it. Strike 2. 1-1. He didn't.
Well, we'll see. Slott had the bat out in front. Did he pull it back? Yes, according to the first base umpire, Ed Rapuano. Close.
1-1 the count. Key situation here in this one.
Wetland keeping an eye on Alex Cole, who's a speed burner. You might want to start Cole to stay out of the double play because Don Slott's a prime candidate with something on the ground.
Cole's got a good lead at first base. 1-1, not running. Slott towards the hole. Knocked off the glove of Owen. That'll score a run. Bonds in. Cole, the turn will stop. Slott to second base. 5-3.
Case where the over-hustle of Spike Owen hurt his glove, but you just can't fault Spike Owen. He was trying to make a play. If he doesn't touch it, it's just a routine base hit, and Alex Cole has to stop at second, but it hits off his glove, and on the AstroTurf, it starts caroming towards the foul line, and Cole picked it up, and Don Slott did too. So Spike Owen trying to make a play, but instead it backfired on the Expos.
So they have got the potential tying runs in scoring position. Pennyfeather has come on to run. William Pennyfeather called up today from Buffalo. Will be running at second base for Don Slott, credited with a double and an RBI. Slott now has 15 doubles and 33 runs batted in. And Dave Clark is going to pinch hit for the pitcher.
Well, Clark's a guy who had a pretty good chance of making this club out of spring training, but Cecil Lefsky really had a great swing, so Clark went to Buffalo, but he hit over 300. He's a quality hitter.
Wetland bounces it. Laker makes the stop. 10 hits on the board for the Pirates. The Expos lead 5-3. But Wetland's in a real jam here in the 8th inning. He's got Cole on at third base. And the pinch runner Pennyfeather on for Slott at second. A run already in. Felipe Alou's got the man he wants out there on the mound trying to get it done. Dave Clark, 1-0. 2 balls and no strikes.
Yeah, we talk about those September call-ups. Jim Leland's used everybody but the kitchen sink tonight, but he's still got 2 or 3 guys left on the bench. So in this case, with Buffalo season's over, they call up a number of players, and Leland's trying to get them all in this game tonight, try to juggle something to get a win.
Pirates have had the potential tying run at bat in each of the last 3 innings. 3 balls and no strikes. Wetland has not been close. A wild affair here in Pittsburgh in the 8th inning. The Pirates have battled their way back, and a base hit right here by Clark to tie this ball game up. He's on. Bases loaded.
Well, John Wayner was scheduled, but Jim Leland's going to go yet to the bench again. Looks like Al Martin, another call-up from Buffalo, another 300 hitter, is going to come on to hit. So Jim Leland pulling out every stop on his roster tonight to try to find a way to get a win in this one.
They called up 4 extra players today, and Leland's thanking his stars for that one right now. Otherwise, he wouldn't have enough people to get this done. Martin will be coming up with the bases loaded and 1 out. Kent Bottomfield warming up in the bullpen for the Montreal Expos. Yet another call-up.
Yeah, and Wetland's throwing 19 pitches this inning, and not only is he in a peck of trouble this inning, but he's got the 9th in front of him as well. So this is not what Felipe Alou wanted, and that injury to Pissarro is really looming large right now.
Well, the Baltimore Orioles in their pennant race, trying to catch Toronto, have added to it. They have a 3-0 victory over Kansas City. That is a final. And you see in the 9th inning, Cleveland's got a 6-3 lead over Toronto. Those standings are current to the moment. If Toronto loses, it'll be a 3-game difference with Baltimore, and also a chance for Milwaukee. They're in the 10th in Boston. They both could gain a game on Toronto. Well, here we go. The speedster Cole is on at third base. He had a single. Pennyfeather running for slot on at second base, and the walk to Dave Clark at first.
And you saw Pennyfeather turning around, looking at the position of the outfielders, and Rich Donnelly, the third base coach, was out to talk to him during that timeout, and he told Pennyfeather, know where those outfielders are.
Al Martin, I watched him in batting practice today, has got one of the quickest bats I've ever seen. He hit .305 at AAA, 20 home runs and 59 RBIs. And if he swings, you watch the rip he takes. Bases loaded, 1 out. Strike 1.
Well, he was sitting dead red on the fastball and got a fork ball instead from Wetland, and that'll get him thinking at home plate. Wetland bounced one. The youngster was looking for a fastball.
Wetland has worked himself into this jam. The Pirates have 1 run in. Martin with an 0-1 count. 1-1.
Even though it seems like Jimmy Leland's used everybody, he still has Carlos Garcia, Tom Prince, Mike LaValliere, and Kevin Young available on that bench. So the Pirates making the most out of their call-ups.
Al Martin has only a couple major league at-bats, both this year. He struck out. And he takes the strike, 1 ball, 2 strikes on him. Martin out of West Covina, California, 24 years old, has played in the minor leagues since '85. His most solid season this year at AAA. That's why he was called up today. 1 ball, 2 strikes, 1 out. Wetland with the bases loaded. Martin takes it, 2-2.
Kind of an unusual pitching pattern as we look at Atlanta beating Cincinnati. First win by the Braves at Riverfront, but he started him off with a fork ball. He missed badly, and he's come back with 3 consecutive fastballs, maybe thinking the youngster was looking off speed.
Runners with their leads. Wetland with a 2-2 to Martin. Struck him out. And there are 2 down.
again. Wetland started him off with a forkball. He missed badly, and he came right back with 4 consecutive fastballs, and this one just on by.
And once again, the Pirates have the bases loaded as they did in the 7th inning with 2 down. Orlando Merced drew a walk in the 7th when he came on for his only at-bat thus far. Batting .247. He's got him loaded right here. Ball won by Wetland.
Well, the managers have made the moves. It's up to the players now. Boy, it's been point, counterpoint, move after move. Lou's got the pitcher he wants, and Orlando Merced's been good in the clutch this year.
He's 3 for 9 with the bases loaded this year. And he's ahead on the count here. 2 balls and no strikes. Expos leading 5-3. Bottom half of the 8th inning. 1 run in for the Pirates. A base hit here could tie it up and maybe even put them in the lead. 2-0 the count. Grounded to first. Foley to the bag, and they get the 3rd out. And the Pirates have left the bases loaded for the 2nd time in this game. They have now left 8 men on in the last 3 innings. They trail by 2. What's happened in that Baltimore game already, so they've watched the scoreboard. What a ball game we've got going here. Gary Thorne, Dave Campbell, 5-3. Pirates' chances to keep going by the boards. They still got another shot. Stan Belinda's their 4th pitcher.
Well, if your scorebook looks like ours, good luck. Stan Belinda is the new pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates. 52nd game. He also has had problems with the home run ball. In fact, that's really plagued the Pirate bullpen. We saw Mason with 10. Belinda's given up 8, and Bob Patterson has given up 3 monsters just in the last 2 weeks alone. New catcher. They pinch ran for Don Slott, so Tom Prince takes over. And the new 3rd baseman is Kevin Young, just called up. So that means that Jim Leland is down to Carlos Garcia, and Mike LaValliere on his bench. He's just about running out of options.
LaValliere's not going to be used till it's absolutely necessary because he's the last catcher, but we're about to absolute time. So Stan Belinda on. Mason worked an inning and a 3rd, gave up a hit, struck out 1. Bob Walk, the starter, charged with all 5 runs on 7 hits over 6 2/3 innings. Since then, it's been all Pirates opportunities, but they've been unable to get it done, leaving the bases loaded twice in the 7th and in the 8th. Spike Owen leads it off. He's 0 for 3, and he takes the pitch for a strike. Still batting at .274 on the season. Belinda got it in on the fist that time and fouled it off with a head on the count 0-2.
Here's the play that ended the last half inning. You wonder how Merced did not sprain his ankle. Wetland, a little bit of a late break getting off the mound. He froze, and I think Tom Foley spotted that, and he hightails it. I think Wetland could have gotten there, but look at Merced. And you wonder how he didn't hurt the ankle, but he did not limp when he got up.
This one's going to be tapped to short. Gunned by Bell. And Owen is retired. 1 away on the top of the 9th inning. Tom Hughes.
All right, Gary. Bottom of the 10th at Fenway. Red Sox, Brewers tied at 1. Jody Reed, the sack bunt, right? Well, he bunts it, but look at this. There's 1. There's 2. And they go to the 11th at Fenway. Bill Wegman has gone the entire game as the starting pitcher for Milwaukee. Red Sox and Brewers tied at 1, Gary.
Ooh, how do you not get the first base on that one? Whoa.
Just in case you thought maybe this one is over, I thought I'd tempt your appetite by telling you that Bell, Van Slyke, and Bonds are due in the Pirate ninth.
Finish it off the way we should. Laker's got a base hit. Oh, Laker getting his at-bat. Delivers the single here in the 9th inning with 1 out. Now we'll have a chance to see whether Marquise Grissom can hit for the cycle. Grissom started out in the 1st inning when he picked up a single. This one coming off Bob Walk up the middle. He would break for 2nd base, get his 71st stolen base. He'd go to 3rd and get his 72nd stolen base, and he would score in the inning. He then came up in the 5th inning and drilled this one. Van Slyke could not cut it off. By the time Andy got it in, he was at 3rd. And then this one in the 7th inning, his 14th home run of the year. Now he stands in, hitting .283, and if he can get a double, he'll have hit for the cycle. Ball 1. Marquise Grissom with the Shields out of there, as we said, for 9 games with a muscle pull. He's moved back into the leadoff spot, and he's gotten the job done there. He started out there, then moved down in the order, and then with the Shields out, he's moved back into it. Takes the strike, 1-1. He's batting over .300 now in the 68 games that he's batted in that leadoff spot.
Same two finish off their 2-game series tomorrow night. Dennis Martinez goes for his 16th win. Time called as Tim Laker, I think, wants to check on the signs with first base coach Tommy Harper. Dennis Martinez, the author of a perfect game last year, and the leader of this staff, goes tomorrow night against Danny Jackson of the Pirates.
1 ball, 1 strike on Grissom. The way the Pirates have been putting people on base, Expos would love to add something here in the top of the 9th.
John Wetland threw 26 pitches in the 8th inning, and after working last night, he's got a formidable task in front of him in the 9th inning. Appeared to have good stuff. Of course, I guess Dennis Martinez is the type of guy that can give you a complete game. Felipe is not worried about tomorrow. He's worried about tonight.
Wilson fouls that back. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Marquise Grissom. Well, this has had the pennant fever feeling since we got to the ballpark. Fans have had it all night and have stayed in the ball game. Over 40,000. Montreal Expos trying to put a couple of wins back-to-back after shutting out Philadelphia last night 3-0. Leading it here 5-3, but far from over. Runner goes, hit and run on, popped him up outside first. Better hurry back to the bag. Oh! Orlando Merced tried to throw it before he had it. An error to keep the at-bat alive.
Well, Orlando playing with glasses. I don't think that was a factor. I think he just wanted to turn and try to throw it to first. Somebody was yelling first base, but that big first baseman's glove, Orlando closed it a little too soon.
Laker was running, so he was all the way down to second base. Let's see if the error matters. Grissom, 2-2 count.
Marquise keeps his chances for the cycle alive. Error on Merced, but if Grissom gets a hit here, you don't penalize Marquise. This becomes an unearned run if Laker scores. Excuse me, if Griffin scores.
Well, this has been a real taffy pull. They're stretching it, but they haven't been able to break it. Neither team. 2-2 the count, and they'll talk about the signs here.
Well, I've had everybody in the game for the Pirates tonight, including Bob Patterson, who hasn't appeared yet.
Well, you did your best you could to get him in.
I was trying to get that confidence restored for Bob. He warmed up 2 times. All of a sudden, Denny Nagel came in. Hey, they both throw left-handed. It's a long ways down in that bullpen.
2-2 and 1 out. Grissom and the step off as Laker goes back to the bag at first.
Last Expo to hit for the cycle, Tim Raines, 1987, also against the Pirates. Marquise Grissom has not hit for the cycle.
Runner goes again, 2-2, and again popped up. Laker again turns around, heads back to first. Prince, the catcher, called off. Young, the third baseman, finally moved in, and that's the right play. He's got the better angle.
Yeah, there were 3 guys out there yelling anybody but Merced. Belinda, Prince, and Kevin Young. Merced was coming in, and Stan's going, Orlando, you get out of there. You already had your chance. Prince is there, and Kevin Young takes charge, and that's the right play. It's a lot easier for him than Prince going out trying to look up.
That'll bring up Barbary. Brett Barbary, a single in the 7th inning, and also on with a walk in the 5th, hitting .243. Laker at first. Now there are 2 down. Belinda will step off. 4 pitchers have been used in this game by the Montreal Expos, and the same now for the Pirates. And the starters are still the pitchers of record. Walk for Pittsburgh, Nabholz for the Expos. Barbary with 2 away. First ball hitting into the seats. Sports Center coming right along as soon as we are done here in Pittsburgh with this one. Keith Olbermann and Dan Patrick standing by. They'll be updating you on all the Major League pennant races. Raiders, quarterback change. They'll tell you about it. And the Cy Young Award breakdown in the National League. Who's got the chances? All part of Sports Center with all the scores. And all the highlights. 0-1. Set Belinda, and that's about 3 times now he stepped off at Laker at first base.
You mean they're not talking tonight about what the spotted owl will do to log rolling? That's not on Sports Center tonight?
Not yet.
Okay.
Why is he stepping off on Laker? I know Laker's running here in a couple of hit and runs, but got 2 down, Barbary up, Laker. I'm not sure even if he wanted a hit and run would be anywhere near second base before the throw.
Belinda's a guy who the Pirates feel has the best stuff down in their bullpen, but mentally he's been a little slower maturing into the role, and it's really been frustrating because the Pirates think he has the stuff to do it, but unfortunately for Stan Belinda, he's not quite sure he can do it yet.
And that's the only one that matters. Ray Miller, the pitching coach. A lot of signs coming out of that dugout, defensively, offensively, pitching. 1 ball, 1 strike on Barbary, and again Belinda steps off. One of the ways it showed on Belinda, and I don't mean to be unfair towards him, but sometimes you wonder whether he wants to throw the baseball. He just hangs on for a long time out there in games this season. With step-offs and looks to first and waving off signs. And
well, the one great thing that the best relievers are able to do is when somebody takes you deep, they're able to put it behind them. It still affects Belinda a lot.
Runner goes, 1 hop, they take it all back, stolen base.
Now, Belinda has a slow delivery to the plate, so Laker's gone 3 times, but Tom Prince didn't have much of a shot. Tim Laker pull that knee pad up. Laker's got those long strides. He's not a burner, but when the pitcher has a slow delivery, you don't give your guy much of a chance to throw him out.
So all catchers take heart. He's stealing bases out there. That's his first of the year. He's 1 for 2 from Mr. Laker, having earned my respect on that jaunt down to second. And now, if they get him home, that will be an enormous run here in the 9th inning. 3 balls, 2 strikes on Barbary with 2 down. Laker back to the bag. That's his first Major League stolen base.
I'm surprised he didn't call time and want to pull it out of the ground, hold it up. Well, we got some swallows flying in here or what?
Barbary, fair ball down the line. He will get Laker home. Brett Barbary on his way to second base, and the Birds are quiet. An RBI double with 2 down on a 3-2 pitch in the 9th inning. A 6-3 Montreal lead. They are doing the necessary things tonight.
Marquise Grissom set the tone, stole second, stole third back in the first inning, and the Expos basically haven't stopped running all night. Barbary just hits it where nobody is. Kevin Young not going to guard the line in that situation. So the Expos have a 3-run lead, but Felipe would feel better if he could up that to 4 or even 5. You hate to think about facing the tying run with the bases loaded. All managers love that 5-run lead.
Well, Alou up, getting his opportunity at the plate. Came on as a runner and then into left field for Ivan Calderon. Credit Barbary with his 24th RBI of the season. 1-0 count on Alou. Belinda fouled off. Jose Salou, 1 ball, 1 strike.
Well, if this gets into an absolute catfight, Gary, we talked about it earlier, but the Expos really have the advantage in the bullpen. That's not to take anything away from the Pirates. Those guys, for the most part, give you everything they have, but Ray Miller's done a wonderful job molding this bullpen, but you never know who's going to be the guy, and it's tough to pitch like that all year long.
1-1 delivery. Popped up, second base. King will back up on it and put it away. Lou is retired, but another run is scored in the 9th inning. Bottom of the 9th coming up. The big bats will be there for the Pirates in their last chance. Bottom of the 9th inning. Foul back off Wetland by Bell. Bell, Van Slyke, and Bonds. Pittsburgh's last chance. A victory by the Expos. And the Pirate lead will be cut to 3 with these two teams playing again here tomorrow night. 21 players have been used by Pittsburgh and 15 by the Expos in this game.
Gary, you just saw the line score, and really the difference in this game is the Expos have scored 3 runs with 2 outs, and the Pirates, numerous chances, couldn't get that key hit.
Chris Nabholz could win this and be 10-10. Bob Watt could be the loser and go 9-6. They are the pitchers of record.
Pirates, on the other hand, scored all their runs with nobody out, but couldn't put together a big inning.
John Wetland. There was some major heat. That had the neutrons popping on that one. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Always had the great fastball. Dodgers kept waiting for him to come up with an off-speed pitch. It turned out to be a splitter, and that's the old equalizer.
95 miles an hour in that last one. 1-2, and he got him. Wetland gets the first out with his 3rd strikeout of the game.
Well, you want to talk about a perfect breaking pitch after a high gas. Looked like the forkball. Watch the bottom fall out of this one. Ew. Second story going down.
1 down. Andy Van Slyke, RBI single in the 1st inning. Reached on an error and another at-bat. 332 in the season as his quest continues for the batting title. Foul back. We haven't had time to mention one thing I wanted to make sure we did. An interesting note about the 3 guys who are in the batting average, home run, and RBI categories with the Sheffield and Pendleton talk. Larry Walker of the Montreal Expos also is among the top 10 in all 3 of those categories. Montreal Expos have noted that in their notes, and that's worthy because he hasn't got much publicity about that. Not going to win the Triple Crown, but he's still there in the top 10 in all 3 categories. Left center field, Marquise Grissom, 2 down.
Boy, defensive positioning so important. Marquise with the Wetland fastball at 95 miles an hour was playing Van Slyke towards left center. Otherwise, that ball's up the alley. Felipe said, yep, just the way those charts show. You know, Larry Walker, interesting case, did not play high school baseball. He grew up in Maple Ridge, British Columbia, and he learned his baseball at the Instructional League. 4 years in a row, he went to Florida during the off-season under the tutelage of the Montreal Expos instructors, and he's become a polished player.
2 down and nobody on. Bottom of the 9th. The Expos leading here 6-3. Each team has 10 hits, but the Expos have those extra 3 runs. Barry Bonds, batting .301, is added to it tonight. A couple of hits, that one in towards the gap in right center field. Grissom pulls it in, and this game is over. They have made every play they've needed to make tonight. Marquise Grissom hauling in the fly ball by Barry Bonds, and it's now a 3-game edge for the Pirates.
Well, certainly a display for Marquise Grissom tonight. A single, 2 stolen bases, a triple, a home run, and a great throw to the plate to nail Jay Bell, and then a game-ending catch in right center field. So it was the Marquise Grissom show for Montreal tonight with a good cast of supporting characters.
This is the 7th inning home run by Marquise Grissom, his 14th of the year, as he scored 3 runs in tonight's ball game. Nabholz gets the victory, and Montreal now trails the Pirates by only 3. Nabholz 10-10. Wetland, the save, is 35th. Walk, the loser, at 9-6. For Dave Campbell and all of our crew from Three Rivers Stadium in Pittsburgh, this is Gary Thorne. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Pittsburgh losing at Montreal 6, the Pirates 3. Baseball tonight is next.